In this video, we're breaking down 3 hours of classic SpongeBob lore. Let's get started. Band Geeks, the episode that defined a generation. Band Geeks aired on the 7th of September 2001 during SpongeBob SquarePants Season 2 as episode 35B. The episode pulled in 2.96 million viewers when it first broadcast on Nickelodeon. Nobody involved in making this episode could have predicted what would happen next. Over the following 2 decades, Band Geeks would become the single most beloved episode in SpongeBob history, earning a near-perfect rating on IMDb and spawning a cultural movement that would eventually involve over 1 million people petitioning the National Football League. The episode opens at Squidward's house, where he plays his clarinet so badly that 2 people from a pet hospital show up at his door asking about a dying animal on the premises. Squidward slams the door in their faces. His phone rings immediately after. When Squidward answers with his usual greeting about the house of unrecognized talent, the voice on the other end belongs to Squilliam Fancison, Squidward's high school rival from band class. Squilliam Fancison represents everything Squidward wishes he could be. Squilliam leads a big fancy band and has been booked to play at the Bubble Bowl next week. The Bubble Bowl is the biggest venue any musician could dream of performing at in Bikini Bottom. Squilliam calls specifically to rub this success in Squidward's face, while also mentioning that he heard Squidward now plays the cash register at the Krusty Krab. The insult cuts deep because it's true. When Squilliam mentions he can't make the Bubble Bowl performance and asks if Squidward's band can cover for him, Squidward panics. He doesn't have a band. Squilliam knows this and is setting up Squidward for humiliation. The problem is that Squidward's pride won't let him admit the truth. In a moment of desperation, fueled by decades of jealousy and insecurity, Squidward lies. He tells Squilliam that he absolutely does have a band and they will play the Bubble Bowl. Squilliam wishes him good luck and hopes the audience brings lots of ibuprofen, implying the performance will give everyone a headache. After hanging up, Squidward realizes what he's done. He has 1 week to create a marching band from scratch. He puts up posters all over Bikini Bottom, advertising the opportunity to join the greatest musical sensation ever to hit town. The posters promise fulfillment, adoration from thousands of strangers, and most importantly, according to Mr. Krabs, free refreshments. The first practice is scheduled for 8:30 p.m. sharp. Squidward arrives 5 minutes late at 8:35 p.m. because a music rental clerk who didn't know an oboe from an elbow made him wait. Squidward arrives with boxes full of musical instruments, sheet music, and marching uniforms crammed into the back of his shell cart. When he walks into the practice room, he finds that everyone who responded to his posters is already there. SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, Plankton, Mrs. Puff, Mr. Krabs, Larry the Lobster, and various other Bikini Bottom residents. Squidward asks how many people have played musical instruments before. Plankton raises his hand while holding a triangle and asks if instruments of torture count. Squidward says no. Patrick raises his hand while holding a trumpet and asks the question that would become one of the most quoted lines in television history. Is mayonnaise an instrument? Squidward responds that no, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Patrick raises his hand again and Squidward cuts him off by saying horseradish is not an instrument either. With nobody having any musical experience, Squidward declares that fortunately, he has enough talent for everyone. He tells them to repeat after him and plays 6 notes on his clarinet. The brass section goes first and plays the notes horribly. The wind section goes next and also plays terribly. When Squidward asks for the drums, the drummers misunderstand and blow on their drumsticks, which shoot out of their mouths and pin Squidward to the wall. Squidward's response captures his despair perfectly. Too bad that didn't kill me. Practice continues with Squidward trying to get everyone to march in rhythm by standing in straight rows of 5. SpongeBob asks if this is the part where they start kicking. Squidward explains that kicking is for a chorus line, not a marching band. Patrick gets excited about kicking anyway and kicks Sandy in the leg. Sandy immediately jumps on Patrick and beats him up. They roll outside while Patrick screams in pain. The doors slam shut. After a moment, Patrick sticks his head back in to announce that whoever owns the white sedan left their lights on. When Patrick walks back to his seat, viewers can see that Sandy has stuffed his entire body into a trombone. Every step Patrick takes produces a trombone note. The French narrator announces day 2. The band marches down a street attempting to play Semper Fidelis, the official march of the United States Marine Corps. They play it badly. Squidward tells the flag twirlers to really spin those batons. He keeps telling them to spin harder and move faster. The flag twirlers take his instructions too seriously and spin so hard they launch into the sky, crash into a blimp, and die in an explosion. One of the band members plays Taps, the military funeral song, while everyone mourns. Everyone except Squidward, who simply lies down on the ground and curls into a fetal position. Day 3 arrives. Squidward asks Plankton how his harmonica solo is coming along. Plankton says it's tremendous and asks if Squidward wants to see. Plankton plays the harmonica by running back and forth between the holes since he's so small. He quickly runs out of breath. On his way to the final hole, Plankton pants and walks slowly before managing one weak raspberry sound and fainting. Day 4 marks the final practice before the Bubble Bowl performance. Squidward admits to everyone that they haven't improved at all since they began. Patrick demonstrates this truth by chewing on his trumpet. Squidward then explains his theory. People talk loud when they want to act smart, so if they play loud, people might think they're good. He counts them in with 1, 2, 3, 4, and the band plays. The scene cuts outside where a massive blast of horrible noise erupts from the music school and breaks all the windows. Inside, Squidward's face has been deformed beyond recognition. His shirt is ripped, and his conductor's baton has broken in half. Squidward suggests a new theory. Maybe they should play so quietly that nobody can hear them. This is when everything falls apart. Harold, one of the band members, says maybe they wouldn't sound so bad if some people didn't try to play with big, meaty claws. He's insulting Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs demands to know what Harold just said. Harold shouts even louder, "Big, meaty claws!" Mr. Krabs responds that these claws aren't just for attracting mates. Harold tells Mr. Krabs to bring it on. SpongeBob tries to intervene peacefully by telling everyone to be smart and bring it off instead of on. Another band member insults SpongeBob by calling him a talking cheese who wants to preach to them. An all-out brawl erupts. Every band member uses their musical instruments as weapons. Squidward tries to stop them, but only because there's a deposit on the equipment. Mr. Krabs and another fish charge at each other with large woodwind instruments. Mrs. Puff slams both of them with her cymbals. Sandy breaks xylophone keys off someone's instrument. Patrick kicks Sandy, who produces a trumpet and grins evilly. Patrick realizes he's in danger and runs away screaming while Sandy chases him. The clock strikes 10 o'clock and the practice officially ends. Everyone immediately stops fighting and casually says goodbye to each other like nothing happened. They all walk toward the door where Squidward stands. Squidward delivers a speech that cuts to the emotional core of his character. He tells them they took his one chance at happiness and crushed it into little tiny bite-sized pieces. He really had expected better of them. He guesses he's a loser for that too. He tells them not to bother showing up tomorrow because he'll just tell everyone they died in a marching accident. He thanks them for nothing and leaves crying. Patrick responds by saying, "You're welcome," completely missing the sarcasm. After Squidward leaves, SpongeBob asks what kind of monsters they are. He says that poor creature came to them in his hour of need and they failed him. SpongeBob argues that Squidward has always been there for them when it was convenient for him. He tries to give examples, but they don't work. When Evelyn's little Jimmy was trapped in a fireman rescued him, not Squidward. When Larry's heart gave out from tanning pills, some guy in an ambulance revived him, not Squidward. SpongeBob tells everyone that if they can all just pretend Squidward was a fireman or some guy in an ambulance, they can pull together and discover what it truly means to be in a marching band. The crowd agrees and SpongeBob counts them into practice. The next day at the Bubble Bowl, Squidward arrives convinced that his life is over. He knows the band won't show up. He hopes at least that Squilliam won't find out about the failure. The camera zooms out to reveal Squilliam standing right next to him. Squilliam laughs and says he just wants to watch Squidward blow it. He asks where Squidward's band is. Squidward claims they couldn't come because they died. Squilliam points to SpongeBob and the rest of the band who are standing right there. Squidward screams and his eyes literally pop out of his head. SpongeBob cheerfully announces they're ready to perform. Squilliam looks at the ragtag group and tells Squidward this is exactly how he pictured his band would look. SpongeBob dances eagerly. Squidward weakly explains that's his eager face. The band marches into the Bubble Bowl Stadium. The bowl rises above a football field filled with live-action human beings, waving towels and cheering. Patrick comments that these are some ugly-looking fish. SpongeBob suggests maybe they're in a toxic waste dump. Mr. Krabs says he thinks he's going to be sick. Squidward nervously looks at everyone and then glances at Squilliam, who grins and bounces his unibrow smugly. Squidward tells everyone to get this over with and counts to 4. What happens next changed SpongeBob history forever. The band's horn players perform an intro fanfare that sounds genuinely good. Squidward opens his eyes in shock. Plankton plays opening notes on a keyboard. SpongeBob begins singing a power ballad about victory and determination. The voice coming out of SpongeBob belongs to David Glenn Isley, lead singer of the rock band Wildfire. Throughout the performance, Patrick plays electric drums while wearing sunglasses. Sandy shreds on electric guitar. Mrs. Puff plays electric bass. Mr. Krabs rocks a keytar, and Pearl plays saxophone. The song is called Sweet Victory. It was originally written by David Glenn Isley and Bob Kulick for SpongeBob specifically. The song talks about winning, fighting, never giving up, and taking victory. As SpongeBob sings, Squilliam's expression changes from smug confidence to complete shock. Squidward notices and gives Squilliam the smuggest grin imaginable. He throws his conductor's baton over his shoulder and uses just his arms for conducting. The performance is absolutely triumphant. Squilliam can't handle what he's seeing and hearing. He has a heart attack and faints. Medical personnel carry him away on a stretcher while Squidward waves goodbye with the most satisfied expression ever seen on his face. Squidward runs to the middle of the stage during the final chorus. He jumps into the air and the scene freezes on his moment of pure joy before fading to black. Band Geeks became the highest-rated episode of SpongeBob SquarePants on IMDb with a score approaching a perfect 10 out of 10. Fans consistently rank it as not just the best SpongeBob episode, but one of the greatest animated television episodes ever created. The episode works on multiple levels that explain its enduring popularity. First, the episode understands Squidward completely. Most SpongeBob episodes position Squidward as the antagonist who suffers because of his own misery and hatred of SpongeBob. Band Geeks flips this dynamic. Squidward becomes the protagonist. Viewers root for him because everyone understands what it feels like to have a rival who seems more successful. Everyone knows the pain of lying about an accomplishment to save face. Everyone has felt like a loser compared to someone else. Squidward's emotional breakdown when he thinks he's failed hits hard because it's real. His joy at the end feels earned. Second, the episode contains an incredible number of quotable lines and memorable moments packed into just 11 minutes. "Is mayonnaise an instrument?" became one of the most repeated SpongeBob quotes ever. The flag twirlers crashing into a blimp became a dark comedy classic. Patrick being stuffed inside a trombone created a visual gag that still makes people laugh. The big meaty claws argument became a meme. Squidward's tearful speech about crushed dreams resonated with audiences. Every scene offers something quotable or memorable. Third, Sweet Victory itself became a cultural phenomenon separate from the episode. The song is genuinely good. It's not a joke song or a parody. It's a legitimate power ballad that sounds like it could have been a hit in the 1,980 seconds rock scene. David Glenn Eisley's vocals give SpongeBob real singing credibility. The song's message about perseverance and victory through determination resonates with people of all ages. The song became an anthem. The cultural impact of Sweet Victory reached its peak in 2018 when SpongeBob creator Stephen Hillenburg died from ALS at age 57. Hillenburg had announced his ALS diagnosis in 2017, but said he would continue working on SpongeBob as long as possible. His death devastated fans who had grown up watching the show he created. People wanted to honor his legacy. Super Bowl LIII was scheduled for the 3rd of February 2019, just a few months after Hillenburg's death. Fans started an online petition asking the National Football League to have Sweet Victory performed during the halftime show as a tribute to Stephen Hillenburg. The petition gained momentum quickly. More than 1.2 million people signed it. The idea made perfect sense because Band Geeks features the band performing at the Bubble Bowl, which is SpongeBob's version of the Super Bowl. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, which hosted Super Bowl LIII, posted a GIF on Twitter showing SpongeBob dancing from Band Geeks. This seemed to confirm that Sweet Victory would be performed. Maroon 5, who were headlining the halftime show, included a brief clip of SpongeBob in a preview video. Fans became convinced the full song would be performed. The anticipation built for weeks. The halftime show began and a clip from Band Geeks appeared on screen showing SpongeBob introducing the Sweet Victory performance. The crowd went wild. Then the clip ended after just a few seconds and transitioned into Travis Scott's set with no actual Sweet Victory performance. Fans were devastated and angry. They felt betrayed. The disappointment spread across social media immediately. The Dallas Stars of the National Hockey League responded the next day by uploading a modified version of the full Sweet Victory sequence on their Twitter. They had altered the band uniforms from red to green to match the team's colors. The tweet said this was the Super Bowl halftime show fans deserved. The Stars had actually shown this video during their February 1 game against the Minnesota Wild, before the Super Bowl even happened. The Super Bowl disappointment somehow made Band Geeks even more legendary. The episode became a symbol of what SpongeBob meant to a generation of fans. It represented the creativity, humor, emotion, and heart that made classic SpongeBob special. The fact that over 1 million people cared enough about a cartoon episode to petition for its song to be performed at America's biggest sporting event proved the episode's impact. Band Geeks succeeds because it combines everything that made seasons 1 through 3 of SpongeBob great. The humor ranges from silly visual gags to smart character-driven comedy. Patrick's mayonnaise question is absurdist humor that children find funny because it's random, and adults find funny because it's actually a clever subversion of typical question and answer classroom scenes. The flag twirlers dying is dark humor that pushes boundaries. Squidward's emotional breakdown is character-driven drama that gives weight to the comedy. The episode also showcases excellent pacing. Most Band Geeks scenes last between 15 and 30 seconds. The episode moves quickly through the days of practice using the French narrator's time cards. Each practice day shows the band failing in new and inventive ways. The fighting scene escalates perfectly from verbal argument to physical brawl to everyone casually leaving when time runs out. The structure builds to the Bubble Bowl performance in a way that feels natural and earned. Stephen Hillenburg and the Season 2 writing team understood that audiences needed to care about Squidward for the ending to work. The episode makes Squidward sympathetic without making him nice. He's still arrogant and condescending, he still insults everyone, he's still a terrible teacher who cares more about himself than his students. But his dreams matter, his rivalry with Squilliam matters, his desperation matters. When he breaks down crying, viewers feel genuine sympathy for a character who usually deserves his suffering. The ending rewards not just Squidward, but everyone. SpongeBob gets to be the hero by rallying the band. Patrick gets to play drums with sunglasses looking cool. Sandy gets to shred on guitar. Mr. Krabs gets to rock a keytar. Plankton gets to be part of something bigger than himself. Everyone who practiced and fought and struggled gets their moment of glory. The victory belongs to the whole band, not just Squidward, which makes it more satisfying. Band Geeks also works because it tells a complete story in 11 minutes. The episode has a clear beginning, middle, and end. Squidward receives the challenge from Squilliam in the beginning. He struggles to train the band in the middle. He achieves victory in the end. There are no subplots or distractions. Every scene serves the main story. This focused storytelling became rarer in later SpongeBob seasons, which made episodes like Band Geeks feel even more special in retrospect. The animation in Band Geeks showcases the quality of Season 2 SpongeBob. The character expressions are detailed and varied. Squidward's face deforming from the loud music shows the animator's willingness to push character designs. Patrick stuffed in the trombone demonstrates creative visual comedy. Squilliam's unibrow bouncing smugly adds personality. The freeze frame ending on Squidward jumping creates an iconic final image. The live-action crowd footage integrating with the animated characters was ambitious for a television budget. Band Geeks proved that SpongeBob could tell stories with real emotional stakes while maintaining its silly humor. The episode influenced countless later episodes that tried to recreate its magic. Some succeeded, like Chocolate with Nuts and Pizza Delivery. Many others failed by missing what made Band Geeks work. The episode wasn't successful because of Sweet Victory alone, though the song helped. It succeeded because every element worked together: the character development, the comedy, the pacing, the music, the animation, and the heart. When fans discuss classic SpongeBob, Band Geeks comes up first. When people make lists of the greatest SpongeBob episodes, Band Geeks sits at number 1. When someone asks what episode they should show a person who has never seen SpongeBob, Band Geeks is the answer. The episode defined what SpongeBob SquarePants could achieve at its absolute best. It defined a generation's understanding of what made the show special. 20 years after its the 7th of September 2001 premiere, Band Geeks remains the gold standard for SpongeBob excellence and the episode that truly defined a generation. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Art of Cell Animation, Season 1's unique hand-painted look. SpongeBob SquarePants Season 1 stands completely alone in the show's history because it was the only season created using traditional cell animation. Every other season of SpongeBob after Season 1 was made using digital animation techniques. This makes Season 1 visually different from every episode that came after. The hand-painted cells and backgrounds from Season 1 have become highly collectible items because they represent the only time SpongeBob was created the old-fashioned way. Season 1 premiered on the 1st of May 1999 with 3 episodes: Help Wanted, Reef Blower, and Tea at the Tree Dome. The season ended on the 3rd of March 2001 with the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 2. This means Season 1 spanned nearly 2 full years of production and broadcast. During this entire time, every single frame of animation was created by hand using a process that had been the standard in animation for decades, but was quickly becoming outdated. Cell animation, also called cell animation or traditional animation, refers to a specific technique where animators draw each frame on transparent sheets called cells. The word cell comes from celluloid, which was the material originally used to make these transparent sheets. By the time SpongeBob was being made in the late 1990 seconds, the sheets were actually made from cellulose acetate, but everyone still called them cells. The process of creating cell animation for SpongeBob Season 1 was incredibly time-consuming and labor-intensive. First, the animators at Nickelodeon Animation Studio in Burbank, California, would create storyboards for each episode. These storyboards served as blueprints showing what would happen in each scene. Once the storyboards were approved, the real animation work began. Animators would draw the characters and moving elements on paper first. These drawings showed every single frame of movement. Animation typically runs at 24 frames per second, though television animation often uses 12 frames per second with each drawing photographed twice. This means that for every second of SpongeBob animation, at least 12 individual drawings had to be created. A standard 11-minute SpongeBob episode contains about 660 seconds of animation, which would require nearly 8,000 individual drawings if every frame was unique. In practice, animators reuse some drawings and hold certain frames longer to make the process more efficient, but the number of required drawings remained enormous. After the drawings were completed on paper, they were transferred onto the transparent cell sheets. This transfer process was called inking. Artists would carefully trace the pencil drawings onto the cells using ink. Every line had to be precise because any mistake would be visible in the final animation. The inking process required steady hands and incredible patience. Once the inking was complete, the cells moved to the painting department. This is where Season 1 of SpongeBob became truly unique. Every cell had to be hand-painted on the reverse side. The painters would flip the cell over and carefully paint colors onto the back of the sheet. This meant the paint would show through the front of the cell while the ink lines remained on top, creating the finished character image. The painting process for Season 1 SpongeBob presented specific challenges. Executive producer Paul Tibbitt explained the process in a 2009 interview. He said that the first season of SpongeBob was done the old-fashioned way on cells, and every cell had to be part painted, left to dry, then have other colors painted on. Each cell might require multiple colors, and each color had to dry completely before the next color could be applied. If a painter tried to add a second color before the first color dried, the paints would mix and ruin the cell. The entire cell would have to be redone from scratch. This painting and drying process created significant time delays. A single cell might take hours or even days to complete if it required many different colors. SpongeBob himself required at least 3 main colors: yellow for his body, white for his shirt, and red for his tie. His eyes needed white and blue. His mouth needed pink and red. Each of these colors had to be applied separately and given time to dry. Multiply this by thousands of cells per episode, and the time investment becomes staggering. The backgrounds for Season 1 were also hand-painted, which made them different from later seasons. Background artists would paint entire scenes on large sheets of paper or board. These backgrounds showed the locations where the action took place: the Krusty Krab interior, SpongeBob's Pineapple House, Jellyfish Fields, and Bikini Bottom streets. Each background was a unique piece of art created specifically for that scene. The backgrounds in early Season 1 episodes had a specific look that fans immediately recognize. They were often described as bland or not very colorful compared to later seasons. The colors appeared washed out or subdued. This wasn't because the artists lacked skill. The subdued colors were partly a result of the cell animation process itself, and partly an artistic choice that matched the show's initial aesthetic. The cell animation process affected how colors looked in the final product. After the cells were painted and dried, they were placed on top of the painted backgrounds and photographed one frame at a time. This is called cell overlay photography. The camera would photograph the background with the painted cell on top of it. Then the next cell would be placed on the background and photographed. This process repeated for every single frame of animation. The problem was that the transparent cell sheets weren't completely transparent. They had a slight tint or texture that affected the final image. When multiple cells were stacked on top of each other, which happened frequently when multiple characters appeared in the same frame, the colors became even more muted. The camera lights and film stock also influenced how colors appeared. All of these factors combined to give Season 1 its characteristic look. The character designs in Season 1 also looked different because of cell animation. SpongeBob had very large eyeballs in Season 1, larger than in later seasons. His body was asymmetrical, meaning his left side and right side didn't match exactly. This asymmetry gave him a more organic, hand-drawn quality. SpongeBob's color was described as a pale yellow, like a mix of white cheese, beige, and yellow. This pale yellow was partly an artistic choice, and partly a result of how the yellow paint looked when photographed on the cells. One of the most distinctive aspects of Season 1's cell animation was that every frame looked unique and slightly different. When animation is done by hand, tiny variations occur naturally. No two drawings are exactly identical, even when the same animator tries to draw the same character in the same pose twice. These tiny variations gave Season 1 a fluid, organic quality. Characters seemed to breathe and move in slightly unpredictable ways. This frame-by-frame uniqueness became a defining characteristic of Season 1's aesthetic. Fans who love Season 1 often cite this quality as what makes it special. Each frame feels like a small piece of art created by a human being. The animation has imperfections and irregularities that give it personality and warmth. Later seasons using digital animation would become more consistent and clean, but they lost some of this organic, handcrafted quality. The animation in Season 1 was also described as grainy. This graininess came from the film stock used to photograph the cells and from the photographic process itself. The images had a slight texture or noise that digital animation doesn't have. This grain gave Season 1 a vintage quality that matched the show's underwater aesthetic. The grain made Bikini Bottom feel like an old photograph or a memory from the past. As Season 1 progressed through its nearly 2-year run, the animation quality improved and became cleaner. The second half of Season 1 featured noticeably better animation than the first half. The animators and painters gained experience and refined their techniques. The backgrounds became more detailed, the colors became slightly more vibrant, the character designs became more consistent. However, the fundamental cell animation process remained the same throughout the entire season. The decision to use cell animation for season 1-inch 1999 was already somewhat unusual. By the late 1990 seconds, many animation studios had begun switching to digital animation techniques. Disney's Beauty and the Beast in 1991 was one of the first major animated films to use computer animation for certain scenes. By the time SpongeBob premiered in 1999, digital animation was becoming the industry standard for new productions. Steven Hillenburg and the SpongeBob production team chose cell animation for season 1 for several reasons. First, traditional cell animation was what Hillenburg knew and had experience with from his work on Rocko's Modern Life. Rocko's Modern Life, which aired from 1993 to 1996, was also animated using traditional cells. Hillenburg served as creative director on Rocko's Modern Life during its final season, so he understood the cell animation workflow thoroughly. Second, cell animation allowed for a specific artistic style that matched Hillenburg's vision for SpongeBob. Hillenburg wanted SpongeBob to have a handcrafted, cartoonish quality that felt warm and inviting. Cell animation naturally provided this quality through its imperfections and organic variations. The slightly rough, grainy look of cell animation made Bikini Bottom feel like a real place with texture and history rather than a sterile computer-generated environment. Third, the budget and timeline for Season 1 were established before digital animation became fully standardized. Nickelodeon Animation Studio had the equipment, staff, and expertise to produce cell animation efficiently. Switching to an entirely new digital workflow would have required significant investment in new equipment, software, and training. For a new show with an uncertain future, maintaining the existing cell animation process made practical sense. The physical process of creating Season 1 involved coordination between the California studio and overseas animation studios. The California crew at Nickelodeon Animation Studio in Burbank created the storyboards and initial designs. These storyboards served as templates that were sent to Rough Draft Studios in South Korea. Rough Draft Studios handled the actual frame-by-frame animation, meaning they created all the individual drawings that would become the finished episode. After Rough Draft Studios completed the drawings, the cells were inked and painted. Each cell was then colored by hand according to color models provided by the California team. The color models showed exactly what colors should be used for each character and element. The painters in South Korea would carefully match these colors as precisely as possible. Once all the cells were painted and dried, they were photographed frame by frame on top of the hand-painted backgrounds. The completed filmed animation was sent back to California, where the post-production team added sound effects, music, and voice acting. This international workflow was standard for television animation in the 1990 seconds and continues today, though with digital files being transferred instead of physical cells and film. The transition from Season 1's cell animation to Season 2's digital animation happened during 2000. Paul Tibbitt's 2009 interview confirmed that Season 1 was the only season done on cells, and that a shift was made to digital ink and paint animation starting with Season 2. Digital ink and paint animation meant that the initial drawings were still done on paper by hand, but then they were scanned into computers. The inking and painting happened digitally using software instead of physically with ink and paint on cell sheets. This transition to digital animation changed how SpongeBob looked, starting with Season 2. The colors became brighter and more saturated. The lines became cleaner and more consistent. The grain disappeared, replaced by crisp digital clarity. Characters became more symmetrical and less subject to frame-by-frame variation. The backgrounds became more detailed and colorful, with purple, red, and orange shades appearing more frequently. SpongeBob's design changed slightly when digital animation began. His pale yellow color became a brighter, more vibrant yellow. His asymmetrical body became more square and geometric. His eyes became slightly smaller and more consistent in size. These changes were subtle but noticeable to fans who carefully compared Season 1 to Season 2 episodes. The cell animation of Season 1 gave certain episodes a distinctive atmosphere that's hard to replicate. Episodes like Help Wanted, Reef Blower, Tea at the Tree Dome, Bubble Stand, Ripped Pants, and Pizza Delivery all have the grainy, handcrafted quality of cell animation. The colors are more subdued and muted. The characters have a slightly rougher, more organic appearance. The backgrounds have a painted quality that feels tactile and real. This atmospheric quality of Season 1's cell animation particularly enhanced the show's underwater setting. The grain and color muting created a sense of depth and murkiness that felt appropriate for an ocean environment. The hand-painted backgrounds had brushstrokes and texture that suggested the movement of water and sand. The organic variation in character movement matched the fluid, flowing nature of underwater life. Because Season 1 was the only season animated on cells, the original artwork from those episodes has become highly collectible. Animation collectors seek out original SpongeBob Season 1 production cells because they are unique physical artifacts that can never be reproduced. Each cell represents a single frame from an actual broadcast episode. Galleries and auction houses sell Season 1 SpongeBob cells for significant amounts of money. These collectible cells include both character cells and production backgrounds. A character cell shows SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, or another character painted on the transparent sheet. A production background is one of the hand-painted scenes used in an actual episode. Some collectors try to match character cells with their corresponding backgrounds to recreate complete animation setups from specific scenes. The value of Season 1 cell artwork has increased over the years as SpongeBob has become recognized as one of the most influential animated series in television history. The fact that only Season 1 was hand-animated makes that season's physical artwork particularly rare. Nickelodeon and the animation studios only created exactly as many cells as needed for the episodes. Once Season 2 switched to digital animation, no more hand-painted SpongeBob cells would ever be created. The aesthetic differences between Season 1's cell animation and later seasons' digital animation have sparked debates among SpongeBob fans. Some fans strongly prefer the look of Season 1, arguing that the hand-painted quality gives those episodes more warmth, character, and artistic value. They appreciate the grain, the muted colors, the asymmetrical character designs, and the organic variation between frames. To these fans, Season 1 represents SpongeBob at its purest and most authentic. Other fans prefer the cleaner, brighter look of the digital animation that began in Season 2. They argue that the improved color saturation and consistency make the show more visually appealing. The brighter colors make the underwater world feel more vibrant and fun. The cleaner lines make the characters easier to see and their expressions clearer. The more consistent animation from frame to frame creates smoother movement. Both perspectives have merit because they reflect genuine differences in the animation process. Cell animation and digital animation are fundamentally different techniques that produce different aesthetic results. Neither is objectively better than the other. They simply create different looks and feels. Season 1's cell animation gave SpongeBob a handcrafted, vintage quality. Digital animation gave later seasons a polished, vibrant quality. The choice to use cell animation for Season 1 also reflected Stephen Hillenburg's artistic background and influences. Hillenburg had studied experimental animation at the California Institute of the Arts. His thesis film, Wormholes, was created using traditional animation techniques. Hillenburg appreciated the handcrafted nature of traditional animation and understood how to use its qualities to create specific moods and atmospheres. Hillenburg's marine biology background also influenced how cell animation was used in Season 1. As a former marine biology teacher at the Ocean Institute, Hillenburg wanted Bikini Bottom to feel like a believable underwater environment. The subdued colors and grainy texture of cell animation helped create that believability. Real underwater environments don't have bright, saturated colors because water filters out certain wavelengths of light. The muted colors of Season 1's cell animation accidentally matched this reality. The organic, flowing quality of cell animation also matched the fluid movement of ocean life. Real sea creatures don't move with perfect mechanical consistency. They drift, float, and move with natural variation. The frame-by-frame imperfections of cell animation created a similar sense of natural, organic movement. SpongeBob and his friends felt like they were actually floating through water rather than moving through empty space. The time and effort required to create Season 1's cell animation also meant that every frame was precious. Animators couldn't easily fix mistakes or make quick changes the way digital animators can. If a painted cell was ruined, it had to be completely redone from scratch. This meant the animators and painters had to be extremely careful and deliberate with every single frame. The result was that every frame received focused attention and craftsmanship. This craftsmanship shows in the details of Season 1 episodes. Character expressions are carefully drawn and painted. Background details are thoughtfully included. Visual gags are precisely timed. Nothing feels rushed or careless. Even though the budget was modest and the production schedule was tight, the cell animation process enforced a level of care and attention that resulted in high-quality animation. In 2008, nearly a decade after Season 1 premiered, the SpongeBob production team began using drawing tablets for animation. This represented another technological advancement beyond the digital ink and paint that started in Season 2. Drawing tablets allowed animators to draw directly on computer screens rather than on paper. This made the animation process even faster and more efficient. The 5th season episode Pest of the West was the first episode where the crew applied this drawing tablet method. This progression from cell animation in Season 1 to digital ink and paint in Season 2 to drawing tablets by Season 5 shows how animation technology rapidly evolved during SpongeBob's run. Each technological advancement made the animation process faster, cheaper, and more flexible. However, each advancement also moved further away from the handcrafted physical quality that made Season 1 unique. Season 1's cell animation represents a moment in time when traditional animation techniques were meeting digital technology. SpongeBob Season 1 was one of the last major animated television series to use hand-painted cells throughout an entire season. After SpongeBob transitioned to digital animation in Season 2, almost no mainstream animated shows continued using cell animation. The technique became obsolete for commercial animation production, though some independent animators and artists still use it for special projects. The legacy of Season 1's cell animation lives on in how fans remember and discuss early SpongeBob. When people talk about the show's golden era or classic episodes, they often specifically mean the cell animated episodes from Season 1 and the early digital episodes from Seasons 2 and 3 that maintained a similar aesthetic. The hand-painted quality of Season 1 set a visual standard and established an artistic identity that influenced all subsequent seasons, even as the technology changed. Today, nearly 25 years after Season 1 premiered, the cell-animated episodes represent a time capsule of late 1990 seconds animation technique. They show what television animation looked like at the turn of the millennium when traditional methods were giving way to digital technology. They preserve Steven Hillenburg's original artistic vision in its purest form, created using the same animation techniques that had been standard since the early days of animation. The art of cell animation that defined Season 1's unique hand-painted look will never be repeated in SpongeBob. Every episode after Season 1 has been created digitally in some form. This makes Season 1 permanently special and irreplaceable in the show's history. The grainy, muted, organic quality of those first episodes cannot be recreated through digital means. It can only be appreciated by watching those original Season 1 episodes and recognizing the incredible amount of human craftsmanship that went into creating every single frame by hand. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Pizza Delivery, the Krusty Krab's first road trip. Pizza Delivery aired on the 14th of August, 1999 as Episode 5A of SpongeBob SquarePants Season 1. The episode drew 2.47 million viewers during its initial broadcast on Nickelodeon. Pizza Delivery was only the 5th episode ever produced for SpongeBob, coming early enough in the show's run that the creators were still establishing what kind of stories they wanted to tell. The episode proved that SpongeBob could tell simple stories about two characters on a journey and make them emotionally powerful. The episode begins at nighttime at the Krusty Krab after closing time. SpongeBob is cleaning a table while Squidward tells him to hurry up with the chairs because he wants to go home. The phone rings and SpongeBob leaps for it enthusiastically, but Squidward answers first. SpongeBob crashes to the floor. Squidward tells the caller that the restaurant is closed, but Mr. Krabs snatches the phone away. The customer on the phone wants to order a pizza. Mr. Krabs' eyes turn into dollar signs. He tells the customer that, of course, the Krusty Krab has pizza, and their delivery squid will bring it right over. Squidward protests that they don't serve pizza and they don't deliver. Mr. Krabs takes a plate of Krabby Patties, smashes them together into a pizza shape, and puts the result in a pizza box. He gives the box to Squidward and tells him that the Krusty Krab doesn't deliver, but Squidward does. Squidward asks if Mr. Krabs can just get SpongeBob to do the delivery instead. Mr. Krabs thinks this is a great idea and tells Squidward to take SpongeBob with him. SpongeBob appears with a huge smile on his face. Squidward realizes this wasn't what he had in mind. The scene establishes the basic dynamic that drives the episode. Squidward wants to avoid work and go home, while SpongeBob is excited about the delivery mission. Outside the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob performs a vehicle inspection on the boat they'll use for delivery. He checks the front end, antenna, bumper, and bumper sticker that reads, "I brake for sea urchins." When SpongeBob checks the tire pressure, he uncaps the tire valve and puts his mouth on it. This causes him to inflate like a giant parade balloon. His voice becomes squeaky and high-pitched. He announces the tire pressure is good, then blows out all the air into Squidward's face, returning to his normal size and voice. SpongeBob declares that the vehicle inspection is complete and they're making history. The lucky customer is going to receive the first Krabby Patty pizza ever. Squidward tells SpongeBob to drive. SpongeBob says he can't because he's still in boating school. This reference connects to earlier episodes showing SpongeBob's inability to pass his driving test. Squidward insists it's just around the corner and tells SpongeBob to do what he does in school. SpongeBob agrees but says he needs to remember how to drive. Squidward tells him to back it up. SpongeBob doesn't understand at first. Squidward repeats the instruction multiple times, getting increasingly frustrated. He finally shouts for SpongeBob to shift into reverse. SpongeBob says reverse and then imagines the words forward and reverse, turning into Korean writing. The transcript specifically notes that the Korean characters shown are aproga for forward and twiroga for reverse. SpongeBob finally shifts into reverse and the boat backs up extremely fast. Squidward tries to grab the wheel, but SpongeBob keeps announcing that he's backing up while the boat speeds backward out of control. They go over a bumpy area with rocks, then spin around and around while both scream. The scene fades to the next morning, with the boat still going backward over 5 hills. The boat finally stops when it runs out of fuel. SpongeBob says one final backing up as the engine dies. Squidward observes that SpongeBob successfully backed up and they're now out of gas. He adds with an echo effect that they're in the middle of nowhere. SpongeBob points out that the pizza is getting cold. Squidward responds with exaggerated sarcasm, acting shocked that the pizza is cold and asking how things could get any worse. He kicks the boat in frustration. The boat's gasoline tank mysteriously becomes full again, and the boat drives away into the distance without them. SpongeBob optimistically suggests they can still deliver the pizza on foot. Squidward narrows his eyes in frustration. The scene transitions to both of them walking across sand. Squidward complains that his feet are killing him. SpongeBob begins singing a song about the Krusty Krab pizza. The song becomes a recurring element throughout the episode, with SpongeBob singing different variations as their journey continues. Squidward trips over SpongeBob, who is lying on the ground rubbing the sand. SpongeBob explains it's an old pioneer trick he saw in a movie once. Squidward says this is no time for games, but SpongeBob shushes him and says it's working. SpongeBob announces he can hear a truck with 16 wheels approaching. He says he can now show Squidward how the pioneers hitchhike. SpongeBob starts dancing in the middle of the road while wearing a hat. A swordfish truck driver approaches and yells about breakdancers before honking his horn. Squidward gets excited thinking the truck is stopping. He realizes the truck isn't stopping and grabs SpongeBob out of the way. The truck covers both of them in sand. Squidward gives the smiling SpongeBob an annoyed look. The scene cuts to SpongeBob and Squidward walking through heavy winds. SpongeBob continues singing his Krusty Krab pizza song. The wind blows so hard that Squidward's nose keeps touching his face. He tries putting his nose in his mouth to keep it still. SpongeBob gets lifted into the air by the wind. Squidward yells for SpongeBob to let go of the stupid pizza. SpongeBob, still floating in the air, says he can't because it's for the customer. Squidward asks, who cares about the customer? SpongeBob says he does. Squidward says he doesn't. The wind stops briefly, and SpongeBob gasps Squidward's name in shock before the wind carries him away again. Squidward grabs SpongeBob's legs. SpongeBob refuses to let go of the pizza because it's for the customer. They both notice a tornado nearby. Squidward changes his mind and tells SpongeBob to hang on to the pizza. The tornado lifts both of them up and then spits them out. They scream while falling. SpongeBob uses the pizza box as a parachute and lands safely. Squidward falls hard onto the ground. He crawls up to the screen asking where the road is. A tumbleweed rolls by to emphasize how lost they are. Squidward declares they're doomed and asks how they'll get home. SpongeBob lands and says he thinks town is in a particular direction. Squidward sarcastically asks if SpongeBob learned this from the pioneers. SpongeBob confirms this is correct and points to a mossy rock. He explains that moss always points to civilization. Squidward repeatedly asks if SpongeBob really thinks they should go that way. SpongeBob nods. Squidward announces he's going the opposite direction. The camera pans out to reveal there is actually a city in the direction SpongeBob indicated. Squidward has chosen to ignore correct information out of stubbornness. SpongeBob continues singing variations of the Krusty Krab pizza song as they walk. The transcript details multiple versions of the song showing SpongeBob's creativity and persistence. At one point, he starts beatboxing. Later, he sings with blues rock soul style and hits a falsetto note. Eventually, both SpongeBob and Squidward look weary. SpongeBob's singing becomes exhausted and he can barely finish the words. The transcript shows them both lying face down in the sand. Squidward says they need to eat something. SpongeBob recalls that in times of hardship, the pioneers would eat coral. Squidward eats some coral. SpongeBob says maybe it wasn't coral. Squidward spits out the coral. SpongeBob suggests maybe it was sand or mud. Squidward demands the pizza. SpongeBob says he remembers now that it was coral. Squidward tells SpongeBob to give him the pizza. SpongeBob refuses because they promised it's for the customer. Fancy music plays as Squidward changes tactics. He agrees that SpongeBob is right and the pizza is for the customer. He suggests they should check on the pizza to make sure it's okay. SpongeBob opens the box briefly and closes it quickly, declaring the pizza is fine. Squidward says he thinks he saw something and opens the box himself. Squidward looks at the pizza and says it's a fine-looking pizza. SpongeBob becomes entranced. Squidward points out the cheese and then the pepperoni. SpongeBob keeps responding, yeah, in a hypnotized voice. Squidward asks if the pizza looks good. SpongeBob slurps. SpongeBob suddenly snaps out of it and realizes what Squidward is trying to do. He closes the box and declares he won't let Squidward eat the pizza. Squidward demands the pizza. SpongeBob refuses. Squidward threatens to take it away. SpongeBob runs off telling Squidward to get away. Squidward chases SpongeBob demanding the pizza while SpongeBob repeatedly shouts no. Squidward becomes too tired to keep running. SpongeBob runs back into Squidward. Squidward says he wants the pizza and SpongeBob will hand it over one way or another. SpongeBob suddenly announces they're saved. Squidward thinks this is a trick to distract him and demands pizza. SpongeBob insists they really are saved and starts jumping in and out of his pants repeatedly while shouting. Squidward tells him to cut it out. SpongeBob does an elaborate celebration, including backflips, push-ups, ripping himself apart and reconnecting, and a conga dance, all while singing about being saved. Squidward finally tells SpongeBob that the thing he's excited about is just a stupid boulder. SpongeBob delivers one of the most quoted lines in SpongeBob history. It's not just a boulder, it's a rock. He says this with deep emotion and tears in his eyes. He hugs the boulder and climbs on top of it. SpongeBob explains that the pioneers used to ride these babies for miles, and this rock is in great shape. Squidward angrily tells SpongeBob to forget the stupid pioneers. He points out there are none of them left. He says that's because they were lousy hitchhikers, ate coral, and took directions from algae. He asks if SpongeBob is now telling him the pioneers thought they could drive rocks. During this speech, SpongeBob somehow gets the boulder moving and runs over Squidward with it. Squidward stands up and chases after SpongeBob, telling him to hold on. The rock carries them to the customer's house. SpongeBob says he can't wait to see the look on their customer's face. He rings the doorbell and gives Squidward a thumbs up. The customer opens the door and SpongeBob congratulates him on receiving his Krabby Patty pizza. The customer smiles and says he's been dying for one of these. Then his expression changes. He asks where his drink is. SpongeBob asks what drink in a confused voice. The customer demands to know where his Diet Dr. Kelp is and asks if they forgot his drink. SpongeBob checks the order and sees no drink is listed. He tries to explain that the customer didn't order any drink. The customer yells furiously, asking how he's supposed to eat the pizza without his drink. Tears start rolling down SpongeBob's face. The customer continues yelling, asking if SpongeBob ever thought of the customer. He throws the pizza box directly at SpongeBob's face. He says SpongeBob can't call himself a delivery boy, and he's not buying the pizza. The customer slams the door. SpongeBob goes over to Squidward, smiling nervously, shaking, and trying not to cry. Squidward hops off the rock and tries to console SpongeBob by saying his name repeatedly. SpongeBob drops the pizza box, falls over, and starts sobbing loudly. He absorbs his tears over and over in a visual representation of his devastation. Squidward keeps trying to comfort him. SpongeBob continues crying. This makes Squidward become furious at the customer. Squidward grabs the pizza, marches to the house, and furiously pounds on the door. The customer answers still angry. He says if this is another delivery person, he already told SpongeBob's little friend he's not paying. Squidward responds from the customer's point of view that this one is on the house. He slams the pizza box directly into the customer's face. SpongeBob, still lying on the ground in tears, asks if the customer changed his mind. Squidward smugly says the customer sure did, and ate the whole thing in one bite. SpongeBob stops crying and cheers up. He asks if the customer needed a drink. Squidward says no. He tells SpongeBob to take him home. Both jump on the rock. SpongeBob says they actually have just enough time to make it back to work. He backs up the rock and they instantly arrive at the Krusty Krab. Squidward says work and complains about his aching tentacles as the screen cuts to black. Pizza delivery became one of the most beloved episodes from Season 1 for several important reasons. The episode shows Squidward at his most sympathetic. Throughout most of the journey, Squidward acts like his typical grumpy self. He complains constantly. He gets frustrated with SpongeBob's optimism and pioneer references. He tries to steal the pizza when he gets hungry. He refuses to follow SpongeBob's correct directions out of stubbornness. Despite all this typical Squidward behavior, the ending completely recontextualizes his character. When SpongeBob breaks down crying after the customer's cruelty, Squidward's entire attitude shifts. He doesn't mock SpongeBob or tell him to get over it. Instead, Squidward tries to comfort him. When comfort doesn't work, Squidward takes action. He marches to the customer's house and slams the pizza in his face. This moment of defending SpongeBob shows that beneath Squidward's constant irritation lies genuine care for his coworker. Squidward doesn't stand up for SpongeBob because of any reward or obligation. He does it purely because seeing SpongeBob hurt makes him angry. The episode proves that Squidward and SpongeBob have a real relationship despite their differences. This emotional complexity elevates pizza delivery above a simple comedy episode. The episode also works because it captures the essence of SpongeBob's character perfectly. SpongeBob's dedication to customer service becomes the driving force of the entire plot. He refuses to let go of the pizza even when carried by tornado winds. He won't let Squidward eat the pizza despite both of them being hungry. He rides a boulder for miles to complete the delivery. His commitment to doing his job correctly never wavers. This dedication makes the customer's rejection especially devastating. SpongeBob did everything possible to deliver the pizza. He and Squidward got lost, survived a tornado, walked for hours, resisted hunger, and found creative solutions to impossible problems. SpongeBob succeeded at an extremely difficult task. The customer rejects all this effort over a drink that was never ordered. The unfairness crushes SpongeBob emotionally. The Krusty Krab pizza song became one of the most memorable musical moments in early SpongeBob. Tom Kenny, SpongeBob's voice actor, performs multiple variations of the song throughout the episode. The song starts simple and cheerful. As the journey continues, SpongeBob adds beatboxing, blues rock, soul styling, falsetto notes, and eventually exhausted, barely coherent mumbling. The song's evolution mirrors the physical and emotional journey. The song's lyrics are simple but effective. SpongeBob sings about the Krusty Krab pizza being the pizza for you and me, having free delivery, and being very tasty. The repetitive structure makes the song easy to remember and sing along with. Fans of the show can recite the Krusty Krab pizza song from memory decades after first hearing it. The song represents SpongeBob's optimism and enthusiasm even in difficult circumstances. The pioneer references throughout pizza delivery create a running joke that builds to the bolder payoff. SpongeBob learned everything he knows about survival from watching movies about pioneers. He uses pioneer tricks to detect the truck. He explains that pioneers hitchhiked by dancing in the road. He claims moss always points to civilization. He says pioneers ate coral in times of hardship. Every pioneer reference frustrates Squidward more. The bolder moment combines all the pioneer references into one perfect scene. Squidward's angry speech about pioneers being lousy hitchhikers who ate coral and took directions from algae mirrors everything that happened in the episode. SpongeBob literally did all these things. Squidward's question about pioneers driving rocks gets answered immediately when SpongeBob runs him over with the boulder. The joke works because the episode set it up carefully throughout the entire story. The "it's not just a boulder, it's a rock" line became one of the most quoted SpongeBob moments ever. The line works on multiple levels. On the surface level, boulders and rocks are the same thing, making SpongeBob's emotional distinction absurd. On a deeper level, the line shows how SpongeBob finds meaning and excitement in simple things. To Squidward, it's just a stupid boulder. To SpongeBob, it's a rock that represents salvation, history, and the pioneer spirit. The line captures the philosophical difference between the two characters in one sentence. Pizza delivery demonstrates excellent pacing and structure for an 11-minute episode. The setup at the Krusty Krab takes about 2 minutes. The backing up sequence takes about 2 minutes. The walking and pioneer tricks take about 3 minutes. The hunger and temptation scene takes about 2 minutes. The delivery and rejection take about 2 minutes. Every scene serves a purpose, and nothing feels rushed or drawn out. The episode also uses visual comedy effectively. SpongeBob inflating like a balloon from the tire pressure, the boat driving away without them, SpongeBob being carried by the wind, the tornado scene. Patrick stuffed in a trombone isn't in this episode but shows the type of visual gags Season 1 excelled at. Pizza delivery keeps the focus on situational comedy and character expressions rather than relying on dialogue alone. The animation quality in pizza delivery showcases Season 1's cell animation aesthetic. The characters have asymmetrical designs. The colors are slightly muted. The backgrounds have a hand-painted quality. The grainy texture gives the episode a warm, nostalgic feel. The desert scenes with their subdued browns and yellows create a genuine sense of harsh environment and isolation. Tom Kenny and Roger Bumpass deliver outstanding voice performances throughout pizza delivery. Kenny captures SpongeBob's range from enthusiastic singing to exhausted mumbling to devastating crying. The crying scene at the end required Kenny to portray genuine emotional pain in a cartoon character's voice. The performance makes viewers feel SpongeBob's heartbreak. Bumpass gives Squidward layers beyond simple grumpiness. His delivery of the final "this one's on the house" line conveys righteous anger and protective loyalty. Pizza delivery influenced how SpongeBob told stories in future episodes. The episode proved that simple premises could generate complex emotional narratives. Two characters delivering a pizza became a story about dedication, friendship, and standing up for others. Later classic episodes like Geeks and Chocolate with Nuts followed this model of taking simple situations and finding the humanity within them. The episode also established that SpongeBob and Squidward's relationship had depth beyond the annoying neighbor dynamic. Pizza delivery showed that shared experiences could bring them together. Squidward defending SpongeBob became a template for future episodes where Squidward reveals his hidden soft side. The relationship between these two characters became richer and more interesting because of episodes like Pizza Delivery. Pizza Delivery remains one of the highest-rated Season 1 episodes among fans. It appears consistently on lists of the best SpongeBob episodes ever made. The combination of memorable quotes, emotional storytelling, excellent voice acting, and perfect pacing created an episode that represents everything that made classic SpongeBob special. The episode aired early in the show's run, but immediately established the level of quality and heart that SpongeBob could achieve. 25 years after its 14th of August 1999 premiere, Pizza Delivery continues to resonate with audiences. The episode taught viewers that doing the right thing doesn't always result in immediate reward. Sometimes you work incredibly hard and still get rejected. But having someone stand up for you when you're hurt matters more than any pizza delivery. The Krusty Krab's first road trip became one of the most important journeys in SpongeBob history. Moving on to Tom Kenny and Bill Fagerbakke, the chemistry behind the best friends. SpongeBob SquarePants and Patrick Star represent one of the greatest friendships in television animation history. The two best friends, who live next door to each other in Bikini Bottom, have entertained audiences for over 25 years with their adventures, misadventures, and unwavering loyalty to each other. Behind these iconic characters are two voice actors whose real-life friendship and professional chemistry created the magic that makes SpongeBob and Patrick's relationship feel authentic and heartfelt. Tom Kenny voices SpongeBob SquarePants. Bill Fagerbakke voices Patrick Star. These two actors have been working together since 1997, when they recorded the pilot episode Help Wanted. Their collaboration spans 27 years as of 2024, making it one of the longest-running voice acting partnerships in animation history. The chemistry between Kenny and Fagerbakke isn't just professional skill, it's genuine friendship that translates directly into the characters they portray. Tom Kenny was born on the 13th of July 1962 in Syracuse, New York. His birthday falls one day before SpongeBob's fictional birthday of July 14. Kenny grew up interested in comic books, drawing funny pictures, and collecting records. These childhood interests eventually led him toward comedy and performance. As a young adult, Kenny pursued stand-up comedy in Boston and San Francisco. His stand-up career led to appearances on various cable television shows throughout the 1,980 Seconds and 1,990 Seconds. Kenny's comedy background gave him skills that proved essential for voice acting. Stand-up comedy requires quick thinking, character work, vocal variety, and the ability to hold an audience's attention using only your voice and personality. These same skills apply directly to voice acting for animation. Kenny could create distinct character voices, improvise jokes, and bring energy to his performances. Before SpongeBob, Kenny worked extensively in animation voice acting. He voiced Heifer Wolf, the enthusiastic cow character, on Rocko's Modern Life, which aired on Nickelodeon from 1993 to 1996. This job was crucial because it's where Kenny first met Stephen Hillenburg. Hillenburg worked as a director on Rocko's Modern Life and eventually became the show's creative director during its fourth and final season. The SpongeBob voice actually originated during Kenny's work on Rocko's Modern Life. Kenny used a voice similar to what would become SpongeBob's voice for a minor character on Rocko. After Rocko's Modern Life ended, Kenny moved on to other projects and forgot about that particular voice. When Hillenburg began developing SpongeBob SquarePants in 1996, he remembered Kenny's performance. Hillenburg showed Kenny the Bible for the show and asked if he would be interested in voicing the main character. Kenny initially didn't remember how to perform the voice he'd used on Rocko. Hillenburg brought a video clip of the Rocko's Modern Life episode to remind Kenny of what the voice sounded like. When Hillenburg played the clip, Kenny heard the voice and immediately knew he could do it again. Hillenburg knew right away that Kenny's voice was perfect for SpongeBob. The network wanted to audition more actors, but Hillenburg refused. Kenny described Hillenburg as a strong creator who could say no to network executives when he believed in something. Kenny has explained his approach to SpongeBob's voice in multiple interviews over the years. He describes the voice as falling somewhere between a child and an adult. Kenny cites influences like Stan Laurel, Jerry Lewis, and Pee Wee Herman as inspirations for the character's innocent, childlike quality. The voice needed to sound enthusiastic and optimistic without being annoying. It needed to sound young without being infantile. Kenny found the perfect balance that made SpongeBob appealing to both children and adults. Bill Fagerbakke was born on the 4th of October 1957, making him about 5 years older than Tom Kenny. Fagerbakke's path to voice acting was different from Kenny's. Fagerbakke started his career in theater and worked almost exclusively in theater for 5 years. This theatrical background gave Fagerbakke strong skills in physical performance, character development, and working as part of an ensemble cast. Fagerbakke transitioned from theater to television and film acting. His most famous role before Patrick Star was playing assistant coach Michael Dauber Dybinski on the sitcom Coach, which aired from 1989 to 1997. The character Dauber was a lovable but not particularly bright assistant football coach. This role prepared Fagerbakke for playing Patrick because both characters share a certain innocent dim-wittedness combined with genuine kindness. Kenny and Fagerbakke first met approximately 3 years before recording the SpongeBob pilot. They met while working on the animated series based on the movie Dumb and Dumber. Fagerbakke voiced Harry Dunn, the Jeff Daniels character from the film. Kenny guest starred in one episode. Fagerbakke recalled that this cool-looking guy came in for the recording session, did his work for 3 hours, and left. Fagerbakke didn't see Kenny again until they both showed up to record the SpongeBob pilot. The audition process for Patrick Star revealed how Hillenburg envisioned the relationship between SpongeBob and Patrick. When Fagerbakke auditioned, Hillenburg played a recording of Tom Kenny's SpongeBob performance. Hillenburg explained he was looking for a counterpoint to SpongeBob's voice and energy. Fagerbakke needed to create a character who could play off SpongeBob effectively. The audition wasn't just about finding someone who could voice a starfish. It was about finding someone who could be SpongeBob's best friend. Fagerbakke has said he found the audition process extremely gratifying. Hearing Tom Kenny's SpongeBob performance gave Fagerbakke a clear sense of what Patrick should sound like and how Patrick should behave. Fagerbakke compared himself to Patrick and noted that playing the character feels natural to him. The fact that Fagerbakke identifies with Patrick on some level helps make the performance authentic. Patrick's voice has specific characteristics that Fagerbakke developed deliberately. Patrick sounds slow and somewhat dopey most of the time, reflecting his low intelligence. However, Fagerbakke can shift Patrick's voice to convey different emotions. When Patrick gets angry, Fagerbakke models his performance after American actress Shelley Winters. This gives Patrick's angry moments a specific quality that makes them funny while still feeling genuine. The recording sessions for SpongeBob SquarePants use a method that's somewhat unusual for animation. Most animated shows record actors separately. Each actor comes to the studio at different times and records their lines alone. The dialogue gets assembled during editing. SpongeBob does the opposite. All the main actors record together in the same room at the same time. This approach is called old radio show style because it's how radio dramas were recorded in the 1,930 seconds and 1,940 seconds. Recording together in the same room provides enormous benefits for creating believable character relationships. When SpongeBob and Patrick have a conversation, Tom Kenny and Bill Fagerbakke are actually talking to each other in real time. They can react to each other's line deliveries naturally. They can improvise jokes together. They can bounce off each other's energy. This creates authentic conversational flow that would be nearly impossible to achieve if they recorded separately. Kenny has described the recording sessions as always being fun. The actors get to play together rather than working in isolation. Fagerbakke has emphasized how extraordinary it is to work with someone for as long as he's worked with Kenny. The collaborative recording environment strengthened their working relationship and allowed their real friendship to develop naturally. During the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob, Stephen Hillenburg and creative director Derek Drymon sat in the recording studio and directed the actors. Hillenburg would guide the performances, explain what emotions he wanted in specific scenes, and make sure the actors understood the story being told. Having the show's creator present during recording meant the actors received direct insight into the creative vision. Andrea Romano became the voice director starting in season 4. Romano is a legendary voice director who worked on numerous acclaimed animated series, including Batman the Animated Series, Animaniacs, and Avatar: The Last Airbender. Kenny later took over voice directing duties during season 9, meaning SpongeBob's voice actor became responsible for directing all the other actors' performances. The friendship between Tom Kenny and Bill Fagerbakke grew stronger over the years of working together. In a 2024 interview celebrating SpongeBob's 25th anniversary, Fagerbakke spoke emotionally about their relationship. He said he loves Tom and his family very much. Fagerbakke described their friendship as really unusual for many reasons, with many of those reasons being built directly into SpongeBob. The friendship between the actors mirrors the friendship between their characters. This mirroring isn't coincidental. SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship works because viewers can sense the genuine affection between the actors. When SpongeBob and Patrick share a moment of connection, Kenny and Fagerbakke are sharing that moment too. When SpongeBob and Patrick make each other laugh, Kenny and Fagerbakke are actually making each other laugh. The performances feel authentic because they are authentic. Fagerbakke has specifically noted that the dynamics between SpongeBob and Patrick are so great, and you cannot separate the humanity from that. The humanity comes directly from the two actors' real relationship. SpongeBob and Patrick aren't just cartoon characters reading scripted lines. They're representations of a genuine friendship that exists between two people who respect each other, make each other laugh, and enjoy working together. Both Kenny and Fagerbakke have expressed deep gratitude for being part of SpongeBob. In interviews celebrating the show's 25th anniversary, both actors said they're just as giddy about the job as they were 25 years ago. This enthusiasm after a quarter century shows remarkable dedication. Many actors would become bored or resentful about playing the same character for 25 years. Kenny and Fagerbakke remain excited and grateful. Both actors have also said that neither of them would trade jobs with the biggest movie stars in the world. This statement reveals how much they value their work on SpongeBob. Movie stars might have more fame, wealth, and prestige, but Kenny and Fagerbakke have something rare, a job they love that lets them work together as friends while bringing joy to millions of people. They recognize this as special and irreplaceable. Tom Kenny is married to Jill Talley, who voices Karen Plankton on SpongeBob. This means 2 members of the main SpongeBob cast are married in real life. Kenny and Talley have 2 children together. The Kenny family's connection to SpongeBob runs deep. with Tom's son Mac Kenny working as director of photography and set dresser on SpongeBob's Spookiest Scenes Countdown Special. SpongeBob has been a family endeavor for the Kennys spanning generations. Kenny maintains an incredibly busy work schedule beyond SpongeBob. He constantly auditions for other voice acting roles. Kenny has voiced numerous iconic characters across different animated series. He voiced the Ice King in Adventure Time, the mayor and narrator in the Powerpuff Girls, Dog and Cat Dog, and many others. Kenny's work ethic involves hustling constantly for new opportunities. He's described situations where he'll drive an hour and a half for a radio commercial that pays very little, simply because he loves working. Fagerbaki takes a different approach to his career. According to Kenny, their agent struggles to get Fagerbaki to audition for other projects. Fagerbaki seems content focusing primarily on Patrick Star, rather than pursuing numerous other roles. Fagerbaki has said he's doing this magnificent job until his voice box is laid out on an examination table somewhere, meaning he plans to voice Patrick for as long as physically possible. These different career approaches don't create tension between Kenny and Fagerbaki. Instead, they reflect different personalities that complement each other, much like SpongeBob and Patrick themselves. SpongeBob is constantly busy with work and activities. Patrick is content relaxing under his rock. Kenny is constantly auditioning and taking new jobs. Fagerbaki is content with Patrick. The parallel is striking. Both actors have represented SpongeBob internationally throughout the show's run. They travel together for press junkets, interviews, and promotional events. They've appeared at Comic-Cons around the world. They represented SpongeBob at MIPCOM in Cannes, France, for the show's 25th anniversary. These international appearances require the actors to be good travel companions and maintain professional chemistry, even when jet-lagged and exhausted. Fagerbaki has noted that he and Kenny were on the show for probably 15 years or more before they started traveling abroad to really cool places. The international travel added a new dimension to their working relationship. They got to experience foreign countries together while representing the show they created together. These shared experiences strengthened their bond beyond just recording sessions. The collaborative nature of their work extends beyond voice acting. During the Super Bowl LVAII broadcast on Nickelodeon in 2024, Kenny and Fagerbaki voiced SpongeBob and Patrick in real time while also utilizing motion capture technology. They improvised jokes in character while commentating on the football game. This required them to work together spontaneously, trusting each other to find the humor and keep the performance entertaining without a script. Kenny has received significant recognition for his work as SpongeBob. He won 2 Daytime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Performer in an Animated Program in 2018 and 2020. He also won Annie Awards for voice acting in a television production. These awards recognize not just Kenny's vocal performance, but his ability to bring emotional depth to a cartoon character. SpongeBob can be silly and absurd, but also vulnerable and heartfelt, largely because of Kenny's performance. While Fagerbaki hasn't received the same individual awards recognition, Patrick Star is widely beloved and frequently cited as fans' favorite character. Patrick's dim-witted wisdom and loyal friendship make him essential to the show's success. Fagerbaki's performance gives Patrick layers beyond simple stupidity. Patrick can be surprisingly insightful at unexpected moments. He's also capable of genuine emotion and demonstrates real love for SpongeBob. The episode Naughty Nautical Neighbors from Season 1 demonstrates the SpongeBob and Patrick friendship perfectly. Fagerbaki has specifically mentioned this episode in interviews. At one point, SpongeBob tells Patrick that, of course, they're best friends, and anyone with eyes can see that. Fagerbaki found this moment really struck him because it was such a simple, real moment that captures how important friendships are to children. The security of knowing who your friends are matters deeply. This moment resonated with Fagerbaki personally because the biggest thing in his life has been parenthood. He treasures moments of authentic childlike wonder and simple connection. Playing Patrick allows Fagerbaki to access and express these childlike emotions. The fact that Patrick's friendship with SpongeBob mirrors these authentic childhood friendship dynamics makes the character meaningful beyond just comedy. Stephen Hillenburg's commitment to having genuine emotional moments between characters influenced how Kenny and Fagerbaki approached their performances. Hillenburg didn't want SpongeBob to be purely random humor and slapstick comedy. He wanted real relationships with stakes and emotions. This meant Kenny and Fagerbaki needed to make audiences care about SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship. They succeeded because they cared about it themselves. The chemistry between Kenny and Fagerbaki extends to how they support each other professionally. Kenny has spoken highly of Fagerbaki's talent in interviews. Fagerbaki has praised Kenny's abilities and generosity as a performer. Neither actor tries to dominate scenes or outshine the other. They're true ensemble performers who understand that making each other look good makes the show better. This supportive dynamic reflects Hillenburg's philosophy about teamwork and collaboration. Hillenburg created SpongeBob based partly on his experiences working as part of a team. He valued people who could work together toward a common goal rather than seeking individual glory. Kenny and Fagerbaki embody this philosophy. Their performances serve the story and characters rather than their own egos. The recording sessions for episodes like Band Geeks and Pizza Delivery showcase how Kenny and Fagerbaki's chemistry creates memorable moments. In Band Geeks, Patrick's question, "Is mayonnaise an instrument?" became one of the most quoted SpongeBob lines ever. Fagerbaki's delivery of this absurd question with complete sincerity makes it hilarious. Kenny's response as Squidward required perfect timing. The joke works because both actors understood the rhythm. In Pizza Delivery, the entire episode depends on the relationship between SpongeBob and Squidward rather than SpongeBob and Patrick. However, the episode demonstrates how Kenny can create chemistry with other actors using the same techniques he uses with Fagerbaki. The recording session's collaborative nature allows all the actors to play off each other regardless of which characters are in the scene. Kenny and Fagerbaki have both mentioned how much they appreciate that SpongeBob never feels stagnant. The show constantly finds new ways to present the characters. The spin-off shows like Camp Coral and The Patrick Star Show offer new formats. The movies provide bigger canvases. The Broadway musical and video games offer different mediums. The Super Bowl broadcast created a unique challenge. These varied projects keep the work fresh and interesting. Both actors have expressed that they're just passengers on the SpongeBob ride. They don't control where the franchise goes. They trust that the creative teams will honor the characters and find new ways to reach audiences. This trust reflects confidence in the SpongeBob brand, but also humility about their roles. Kenny and Fagerbaki know they're important to SpongeBob's success, but they don't need to control everything. The longevity of their partnership is remarkable in the entertainment industry. Most television shows last a few seasons at most. Even successful animated shows typically run for 5 to 10 years. SpongeBob has run for over 25 years, with Kenny and Fagerbaki voicing the two main characters for the entire run. This consistency provides continuity that audiences value. SpongeBob still sounds like SpongeBob. Patrick still sounds like Patrick. When Steven Hillenburg passed away from ALS on the 26th of November 2018, both Kenny and Fagerbaki mourned the loss of their friend and creative leader. Hillenburg had brought them together, directed them, and created the world where their characters live. His death marked the end of an era. However, Kenny and Fagerbaki continue honoring Hillenburg's legacy by maintaining the quality and heart he brought to SpongeBob. The chemistry between Tom Kenny and Bill Fagerbaki represents something rare in entertainment, a creative partnership built on genuine friendship, mutual respect, professional excellence, and shared joy in their work. Their relationship makes SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship believable and emotionally resonant. Audiences around the world recognize authentic connection when they see it, even in cartoon characters. 27 years after recording their first lines together in 1997, Kenny and Fagerbaki remain best friends who happen to voice best friends. They've grown older together, experienced life changes together, traveled the world together, and brought happiness to millions of people together. The chemistry behind the Best Friends in Bikini Bottom comes from the chemistry between two best friends in recording studios who found something special and never let it go. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Chocolate with Nuts, SpongeBob and Patrick's Entrepreneurial Disaster. Chocolate with Nuts aired on the 1st of June 2002 as episode 52A of SpongeBob SquarePants Season 3. The episode drew 4.33 million viewers during its initial broadcast on Nickelodeon, making it one of the most watched episodes of Season 3. Chocolate with Nuts is widely considered the funniest episode in SpongeBob history according to fan rankings. The episode takes a simple premise about selling chocolate bars and turns it into a masterclass in comedic timing, quotable dialogue, and character-driven humor. The episode begins with SpongeBob sitting inside his own mailbox, humming happily while checking his watch. The mailman arrives and opens the mailbox. SpongeBob suddenly pops out and cheerfully greets him. The mailman screams in terror, drops all his mail, and runs away. SpongeBob casually says he'll see him tomorrow and gets out of the mailbox. This opening establishes SpongeBob's childlike obliviousness to how his behavior affects others. Patrick walks up and notices the mail has arrived. SpongeBob sorts through it, and most of the mail is addressed to Gary. One item catches his attention, a magazine called Fancy Living Digest. SpongeBob doesn't remember subscribing to it. Both SpongeBob and Patrick look inside the magazine and say, "Whoa," simultaneously. The magazine shows glossy depictions of a higher standard of living that fascinate them both. SpongeBob points out a picture of a rich person's swimming pool that has an inflatable pool floating inside the larger pool. He marvels that this guy is so rich, he has a swimming pool in his swimming pool. Patrick looks at a picture of an old rich person surrounded by bags of money. Patrick's observation is simply that this guy has shoes. The contrast between SpongeBob noticing the pool within a pool and Patrick being impressed by shoes perfectly captures their different levels of understanding. Squidward suddenly snatches the magazine away from them. He accuses them of stealing his mail and says they're lucky he doesn't report them to the authorities. SpongeBob asks Squidward how the people in the magazine get all that money. Squidward explains they're entrepreneurs who sell things to people. SpongeBob asks what kind of things. Squidward responds that they sell things people want to buy and tells them to keep their paws off his mail before walking away. SpongeBob has an epiphany. He tells Patrick they need to become entrepreneurs. Patrick asks if that's going to hurt. SpongeBob tells Patrick to answer quickly without thinking. If he could have anything in the world right now, what would it be? Patrick sweats from the pressure and says he needs more time for thinking. SpongeBob clarifies he means something real, an item, something Patrick would pay for. Patrick pops up behind SpongeBob and suggests a chocolate bar. SpongeBob declares this is a great idea and they'll become traveling chocolate bar salesmen. The scene transitions to SpongeBob and Patrick exiting the bargain mart carrying many chocolate bars. SpongeBob announces that fancy living is coming their way. Patrick tells people to make way for a couple of entrepreneurs, though he mispronounces the word as entrepreneurs. They approach their first house. SpongeBob tells Patrick this is the first step on their road to living fancy and to follow his lead. SpongeBob runs up and knocks on the door. Tom answers. SpongeBob politely asks if he could interest Tom in some chocolate. Tom asks if they said chocolate. Patrick confirms and asks if Tom wants chocolate with or without nuts. Tom begins screaming the word chocolate repeatedly and chases SpongeBob and Patrick while they run away in fear. At the next house, SpongeBob says the first guy didn't count and this is their real first step. A different customer answers the door. SpongeBob asks if he would like to buy some chocolate. The customer calls them chocolate bar salesmen and then insults them by saying they're a couple of mediocre salesmen. He criticizes how they're carrying their merchandise. Patrick is shown holding chocolate bars in his pants. The customer says if they want to be good salesmen, no self-respecting candy bar salesman would be caught dead without one of his special bags. He holds up a bright orange bag. SpongeBob asks what it is. The customer explains it's a candy bar bag specifically designed to cradle each candy bar in velvet-lined comfort. When SpongeBob tries to touch it, the customer pulls it away and says he's wasting his time because they don't need the bags. SpongeBob and Patrick immediately insist they need them. The scene transitions to the customer counting money, while SpongeBob and Patrick walk away with armfuls of bags. The customer tells them happy hunting and then laughs after they leave, calling them suckers. SpongeBob and Patrick sing about fancy living as they run off. They decide to try the next door. SpongeBob rings the doorbell with his foot. The same customer from before answers the door. SpongeBob becomes suspicious and asks if he's the same guy who sold them the candy bar bags. The customer says he doesn't recall, but notices they have a lot of bags. He suggests they're too smart to be without his patented candy bar bag carrying bags. He holds up 2 large maroon bags. Patrick immediately says they'll take 20. The scene changes to SpongeBob knocking on a different house. An elderly lady answers and asks what she can do for the 2 nice young men. SpongeBob explains they're selling chocolate bars and asks if she would like to buy one. The lady says that sounds heavenly and she'll take one. SpongeBob says one chocolate bar is coming up and opens a bag only to find another bag inside. He keeps pulling out more bags while Patrick zips and unzips his pants looking for chocolate. SpongeBob knows the chocolate is in there somewhere. The elderly lady looks at her watch and says she doesn't have time for this. She goes back inside just as SpongeBob finally pulls out a chocolate bar. SpongeBob holds it up, announcing he has 1 chocolate bar for the nice lady, but then he sees Tom still screaming about chocolate. Tom chases SpongeBob and Patrick while chocolates fly out of their bags. The scene transitions to SpongeBob and Patrick sitting in a diner. SpongeBob admits they're not doing well and need a new approach. Patrick suggests getting naked. SpongeBob tells him to save that for when they're selling real estate. SpongeBob asks what the reason was that they bought those bags. Patrick remembers the customer said they were mediocre. SpongeBob realizes the customer made them feel special. Patrick says he's going back to buy more bags. SpongeBob stops him and suggests they try being nice instead. At the next house, SpongeBob tells Patrick to flatter the customer and make him feel good. Patrick knocks on the door. A customer answers. Patrick simply says, "I love you." A harp plays. The customer stares at them for a few seconds and then slams the door shut while a tuba plays. SpongeBob says Patrick laid it on a bit thick and offers to try. He rings the doorbell. The same customer opens the door and tells them to go away. SpongeBob nervously asks how the customer is doing. The customer repeats the question back. SpongeBob asks if he wants to buy chocolate. Patrick says they've got him now. The customer says chocolate has sugar, and sugar turns to bubbling fat. He asks if that's right while looking at Patrick. Patrick's belly is shown bubbling. Patrick giggles and says it tickles. The customer says he and chocolate no longer hang and holds up a picture of himself being obese at age 13. He offers to let them keep the picture for $5. Patrick says he'll take 10. SpongeBob walks away with a sad look while sad music plays. He says they haven't sold 1 chocolate bar and he has a feeling they're too easily distracted. Patrick is shown staring at the pictures. SpongeBob raises his fist and says they should make a pact to stay focused on selling at the next house. Patrick removes the pictures from his face and asks what SpongeBob said. SpongeBob holds out his hand to shake on it. Patrick looks confused and asks if SpongeBob said something. At the next house, SpongeBob reminds Patrick to focus. SpongeBob knocks on the door. A customer answers. SpongeBob gives his afternoon greeting and says they're selling chocolate bars. Patrick somehow moves up extremely close to the customer with his eyes going in and out repeatedly. The customer asks why the chubby one is staring at him. Patrick says he's focusing. The customer freaks out and slams the door on Patrick's eyes. Patrick's eyes get caught in the door, and he comments that it's a nice place inside the house. The scene transitions to Patrick eating a chocolate bar. SpongeBob says he can't understand what they're doing wrong. Patrick says he can't understand anything. SpongeBob says there must be something to selling that they're not getting. Other people succeed at it. He points to a billboard for barnacle chips. Patrick reads the sign saying the chips are delicious. SpongeBob declares they are most certainly not delicious. Patrick smiles and says not the way he uses them. SpongeBob observes that barnacle chips still sell millions of bags a day. Patrick suggests maybe if they didn't stretch the truth, they wouldn't sell as many. SpongeBob happily realizes this is the answer. They need to stretch the truth. Tom appears screaming about chocolate and SpongeBob and Patrick run away. At the next house, SpongeBob tells Patrick they'll work as a team. He'll warm up the customer and Patrick will come in for the kill. SpongeBob rings the doorbell. A young woman named Mary answers. SpongeBob greets her as a young lady and winks at Patrick, who chuckles. SpongeBob says they're selling chocolate and then gets a closer look at Mary, asking if her mother is home. Mary calls for her mom. An extremely elderly woman named Baby Prunes enters in a wheelchair. She appears shriveled to the point of being mostly just a head and spine. She asks what all the yelling is about. SpongeBob and Patrick have stunned looks on their faces. Baby Prunes asks Mary if she can't wait for her to die. Mary explains they're selling chocolate. Baby Prunes asks what they're selling. Mary says chocolates. Baby Prunes can't hear her. Mary keeps repeating that they're selling chocolates, getting louder each time. Baby Prunes finally understands and asks if they're selling chocolate. Baby Prunes remembers when they first invented chocolate. She calls it sweet, sweet chocolate. Then she declares she always hated it. SpongeBob starts to explain nervously that this chocolate isn't for eating. Patrick suddenly appears and says you rub it on your skin and it makes you live forever. Baby Prunes asks if it makes you live forever and says she'll take one. Mary slaps her own face in frustration. Outside the house, Mary pays SpongeBob $1. Baby Prunes yells from inside for Mary to start rubbing her with the chocolate. Mary looks at SpongeBob and Patrick angrily and says she hates them before slamming the door. SpongeBob tells Patrick that if they keep exaggerating the truth, they'll be fancy living in no time. Patrick raises his fist and cheers for lying. The episode then shows a rapid montage of SpongeBob and Patrick telling increasingly absurd lies to sell chocolate bars. SpongeBob tells one customer the chocolate will make their hair grow. The customer says that's great because his wife is trying to grow a beard. SpongeBob tells another customer the chocolate will make them sound smart. The customer with a southern accent says he'll take 20. Patrick tells a customer the chocolate will keep their face from getting any uglier. The customer says it's just in time. The lies escalate. SpongeBob says the chocolate will make you fly. Patrick says you'll fall in love. SpongeBob claims they'll bring world peace. Patrick says you'll walk through walls. SpongeBob declares with an echo effect that you'll rule the world. The scene cuts to SpongeBob and Patrick wrapped in medical casts approaching a door. Patrick says this will be the best lie yet. SpongeBob agrees and says this guy will feel so sorry for them that he'll have to buy all their chocolate. A customer opens the door slightly. SpongeBob asks if he would like to buy a chocolate bar because they need an operation. The customer asks if this is true. The customer then opens the door fully to reveal he's in a cast covering his entire body. He limps out and says it's a small world, asking what's wrong with them. SpongeBob nervously claims they have head trauma and eternal bleeding. The customer says some guys have all the luck. A violin begins playing. The customer delivers a heartbreaking speech about being born with glass bones and paper skin. He explains that every morning he breaks his legs, and every afternoon he breaks his arms. At night he lies awake in agony until his heart attacks put him to sleep. A tear runs down SpongeBob's face during this speech. The wires holding the customer's cast suddenly snap, and he's about to fall. Glass-breaking sounds accompany him hitting each step. He lands at the bottom saying, "Ow," weakly. SpongeBob tells Patrick they need to help him quickly. Inside the house, SpongeBob tells Patrick to put him down gently. Patrick drops the customer's head, and a glass-breaking sound is heard. The customer groans in pain. SpongeBob says the poor man and asks if there's anything they can do to help. The customer says there is one thing. He explains that his medical bills are extremely high, but luckily, he keeps himself alive by selling chocolate bars. He gestures toward a massive stack of chocolate bar boxes. SpongeBob and Patrick buy all his chocolate. The scene shows the customer looking out his window as SpongeBob and Patrick walk by. He says they're such nice boys, and it does his heart good to con a couple of Class A sucker-roonies like those two. He laughs and unzips his costume to reveal he's the same con man who sold them the bags earlier in the episode. This reveal shows SpongeBob and Patrick have been scammed by the same person 3 times. SpongeBob and Patrick walk down the street carrying boxes. SpongeBob says that while it's great they helped that guy, there's no one left in town to sell chocolate bars to. He trips on a rock and falls with a box flat on his face. He tells Patrick they should face the fact that they're failures. Patrick says he can live with that and sits on SpongeBob's box. SpongeBob suggests they change their names to Why and Bother. Tom suddenly appears behind them screaming about chocolate. His scream knocks SpongeBob, Patrick, and the boxes over. SpongeBob and Patrick babble in fear, begging Tom not to hurt them and to have mercy. Tom laughs maniacally and says he's been trying to catch them all day. Now that he has them right where he wants them, he says he'd like to buy all their chocolate. He holds up a large amount of cash. SpongeBob and Patrick look shocked. Chocolate bars fall out of Patrick's shorts along with a Hershey's Kiss. SpongeBob and Patrick begin melting from relief and happiness. SpongeBob thanks Tom for his patronage. The scene transitions to Patrick pushing a wheelbarrow full of cash. Patrick asks if they're living the fancy life yet. SpongeBob pops out of the money and says not yet because first they need to spend all the money. Patrick asks what they're going to spend it on. SpongeBob thinks about this. The scene transitions to nighttime at a fancy restaurant called Fancy displayed in a bottle. Squidward walks in and asks for a table for one. The host tells him the whole restaurant has been rented to a private party. Squidward is shocked and complains that it's his only night to be fancy. He asks who could afford to rent out the whole restaurant. The host explains it's a couple of rich entrepreneurs and their dates. The scene shows SpongeBob, Patrick, Mary, and Baby Prunes at a table. Mary is holding a glass. SpongeBob asks how long the 2 ladies have known each other. Baby Prunes asks what he said as the screen fades to black. This final scene provides the perfect payoff to the episode's setup about fancy living. SpongeBob and Patrick achieve their goal of becoming rich entrepreneurs, but they use their wealth to take the con victim and her terrible mother on a date to a fancy restaurant, which is simultaneously sweet and absurd. Chocolate with Nuts works brilliantly because every scene builds on previous scenes while introducing new comedic elements. The con man appearing 3 times in different scenarios creates a running gag that pays off with the reveal that he's been scamming them the entire time. Tom screaming about chocolate throughout the episode seems like a threat, but becomes the solution when he reveals he just wanted to buy all their chocolate. The episode demonstrates perfect escalation. The lies SpongeBob and Patrick tell start somewhat reasonable and become increasingly ridiculous. The montage showing rapid-fire lies with quick cuts creates comedic momentum. The glass bones and paper skin speech provides genuine emotion before revealing it's another scam. Every element serves both the comedy and the story. Chocolate with Nuts contains more quotable lines than almost any other SpongeBob episode. Patrick's I love you as a sales pitch. The customer's glass bones and paper skin monologue. SpongeBob suggesting they change their names to Why and Bother. Patrick cheering for lying. These lines became part of SpongeBob's cultural lexicon because they're funny in context and funny when quoted alone. The episode aired during Season 3, which is considered part of SpongeBob's golden era alongside Seasons 1 and 2. Chocolate with Nuts represents everything that made classic SpongeBob exceptional. Smart character-driven comedy, perfect pacing, memorable dialogue, and heart beneath the absurdity. 20 years after its the 1st of June, 2002 premiere, Chocolate with Nuts remains the funniest SpongeBob episode and a masterpiece of animated comedy. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Rock Bottom, when SpongeBob got lost in the abyss. Rock Bottom aired on the 15th of March, 2000 as episode 17B of SpongeBob SquarePants Season 1. The episode drew 3.08 million viewers during its initial broadcast on Nickelodeon. Rock Bottom is one of the most atmospheric and unsettling episodes from Season 1, creating genuine tension and fear while maintaining SpongeBob's signature humor. The episode proved that SpongeBob could venture into darker territory and create something that felt legitimately frightening without losing its heart. The episode begins at Glove World, an amusement park themed entirely around gloves. SpongeBob and Patrick are standing outside waiting for the bus after spending a fun day at the park. Patrick licks a glove-shaped lollipop. SpongeBob declares it was another fun-tastic day at Glove World. The bus stops at the bus stop and both friends get on. SpongeBob struggles with a large glove balloon he's carrying. The bus driver clears his throat and points to the coin deposit. SpongeBob says he needs to get his wallet. He turns around, but the balloon he's holding hits the bus driver in the face. SpongeBob tries checking another pocket and turns around again, hitting the bus driver a second time. This happens repeatedly as SpongeBob keeps turning around looking for change while the balloon keeps smacking the increasingly annoyed bus driver. SpongeBob asks Patrick if he has any change. Patrick asks how much SpongeBob needs. SpongeBob asks the bus driver how much it costs. The bus driver says 50 cents. SpongeBob turns around and the balloon smacks the bus driver in the back of the head. SpongeBob tells Patrick 50 cents. Patrick says nope. SpongeBob turns around to check another pocket, but the frustrated bus driver tells him to forget it and just take his seat. SpongeBob thanks him and turns around one more time, causing the balloon to hit the bus driver again. The bus driver glares with an annoyed grin. SpongeBob sits down next to Patrick. Patrick asks to see what SpongeBob got at Glove World. SpongeBob shows him a glove light that he turns on. Patrick says, "Wow." SpongeBob puts the light inside his head, and his eyes start flashing. He says he can see Patrick and both laugh. Patrick shows SpongeBob that he got gloves for his glove action figure. He puts a tiny glove on the big glove's thumb. SpongeBob thinks this is cool. Patrick looks out the window and notices a yellow sign that says, "You are now leaving Bikini Bottom," written in red as they drive past it. Patrick asks SpongeBob where leaving Bikini Bottom is. SpongeBob asks where Patrick saw that. Patrick explains they just passed the sign that said, "You are now in leaving Bikini Bottom." SpongeBob gasps loudly and asks what. He looks out the window. Patrick asks what's wrong as they drive past another sign that says, "Bikini Bottom City Limits." SpongeBob tells Patrick he thinks they're on the wrong bus but doesn't finish the sentence before the bus suddenly drives down a 90-degree angle steep road. SpongeBob and Patrick yell as they fly backward and hit the back of the bus, ending up flattened. SpongeBob slowly finishes his sentence by saying, "Bus." He walks slowly toward the front, holding onto seats to help himself move forward. His face gets distorted from the strong pressure. His pants rip off and fly at Patrick, who ducks in time and giggles. SpongeBob's underwear then hits Patrick in the face. The bus comes to an immediate stop at the bottom of the steep road next to a strange-looking bus stop. SpongeBob and Patrick both fly forward and hit the windshield. The balloon smacks the bus driver onto the windshield too, and all three peel off together. SpongeBob and Patrick get kicked out of the bus. SpongeBob tells the bus driver they need to get back to Bikini Bottom. The bus driver hands SpongeBob his balloon and drives away. Patrick asks SpongeBob what this place is. SpongeBob reads a sign that says Rock Bottom. He observes that it's weird around here and kind of different. He notes that even the soil looks different. SpongeBob picks up some green soil. The soil suddenly speaks, asking SpongeBob to please put him down. However, the soil makes a raspberry sound in the middle of his sentence. SpongeBob shakes the soil off rapidly while gasping. Patrick says he doesn't like it here because it's dark and scary. He says he doesn't want to be here and wants to go home. Patrick points to bathroom doors and says he can't even tell the bathrooms apart. The doors have a question mark on one door and an upside-down question mark on the other. SpongeBob says that's easy and they just need to wait for somebody to come out and then they'll know. A fish comes out of one door. Patrick gasps. SpongeBob suggests maybe they should wait for one more person. One fish comes out of one door while three fish come out of the other door. Patrick's eyes become bloodshot and he starts sweating. He says he still can't read the sign and starts shaking in fear, repeating that he wants to go home. SpongeBob tells Patrick to wait for the bus and call him when it comes because SpongeBob is going to get a bus schedule. SpongeBob walks off saying, "This place sure is creepy." He suddenly sees the bus driving by with Patrick's head sticking out the window. Patrick yells that the bus is here. SpongeBob runs after the bus and pants from exhaustion. Patrick yells and half sobs in worry, calling SpongeBob's name. The bus drives up the 90-degree angle road and SpongeBob tries to run up the road but falls down. He tries several more times but keeps failing. SpongeBob puts on his Grandpa SquarePants disguise and says his grandpa was right about not running for a bus, especially one going up at a 90-degree angle. He takes off the disguise and decides to wait for the next bus. The scene transitions to SpongeBob standing by the bus stop sign holding his glove balloon. He says the bus needs to come because he has to get home and feed Gary. He notices his shoe is untied and lets go of the balloon to tie it. SpongeBob puts his foot on the bus sign and recites the rhyme for tying shoes. Over, under, over, loop-de-loop, over, and through the barrel. While SpongeBob ties his shoe, the bus drives up and then immediately drives off. SpongeBob groans because he missed the bus. The scene transitions to later. Wind blows SpongeBob's glove hat to the side, so he puts it back, but the wind blows his glove balloon away. SpongeBob chases after the balloon, jumping for it whenever he gets the chance. While chasing the balloon, a bus drives up and drives off. SpongeBob yells for the bus to wait and stop, but misses it again. He throws his hat down in frustration. SpongeBob notices a creature and asks if he can help. The creature gives a raspberry sound. SpongeBob tries to explain, but the creature runs after the balloon. SpongeBob tries to tell him not to chase the balloon because he needs to know when the next bus comes. The bus drives up and drives off, while SpongeBob is distracted. He runs after it briefly, but walks back to the bus stop, saying there goes another one and he needs to be more diligent. SpongeBob declares he is not leaving this spot no matter what. SpongeBob's stomach growls. He remembers he has a glove candy dispenser and says it's good he went to Glove World. He squeezes 6 tiny glove candies onto his tongue and immediately spits them out, complaining they're glove-flavored. SpongeBob then notices a candy vending machine across the road. He rubs his tummy thinking about Kelp Nougat Crunch. SpongeBob checks both sides of the road for buses and repeats that he's not leaving his spot no matter what. His stomach growls again, and he decides he'll only be gone a second. SpongeBob runs over to the candy machine. While getting out a quarter, a bus drives up. He runs back across to the bus stop, but the bus drives off. SpongeBob's stomach growls a third time. He takes a few steps across the road and turns around to check for the bus. He takes a few more steps and checks again. He reaches the candy machine and takes out his quarter. Before inserting it, he checks for a bus. There's no bus, so he puts in the quarter, but a bus immediately appears and drives off. SpongeBob checks to his left down the road and decides to sprint across and get candy. He pushes buttons on the machine and checks for the bus. The candy slowly comes down. SpongeBob keeps saying, "Come on," as the candy drops to the bottom. He grabs for it, but a bus drives up and drives off. SpongeBob gets angry. Every time he reaches for the candy, a bus drives forward. When he pulls his arm away, the bus drives backward. SpongeBob decides to leave the candy and run after the bus, but the bus drives off before he can get there. Another fish comes up and takes the candy. SpongeBob yells that the candy was his and walks over to the machine. 3 more buses drive up and drive off while he's standing there. He runs back to the bus stop, but no more buses come. SpongeBob shakes the bus stop sign angrily and yells, "Barnacles!" He declares that's it, and there's no more Mr. Nice Guy. The scene transitions to SpongeBob at the candy machine, staring at it. A bus drives up. Another SpongeBob tiptoes toward the bus, but the SpongeBob at the candy machine falls over, revealing itself to be made of cardboard. The bus drives off. SpongeBob yells, "Tartar sauce," in frustration. The scene transitions to SpongeBob disguised as a bus stop bench. A bus drives up but drives off after noticing the bench is actually SpongeBob. He morphs back to his original shape and yells, "Fish paste." The scene transitions to SpongeBob walking into the bus station. He announces he's getting to the bottom of this right now. He declares he wants a bus to Bikini Bottom, and he is first in line, and nobody is going to tell him otherwise. He sees a fish already standing in line behind where he's standing. SpongeBob says okay, he's second in line. He sees another fish already in line and says third is good. He sees another fish and says fourth is not bad. The scene transitions to SpongeBob at the very end of an extremely long line. He announces he is 329th in line and nobody should forget it. The fish in front of him inflates herself like a balloon and spits out a giant egg on SpongeBob's head with the number 329 on it, before making a raspberry sound. The window attendant calls for next. SpongeBob observes that at least the line is moving. Everyone steps forward, but the egg on SpongeBob's head hatches 3 baby fish that jump in front of him, keeping him at position 329. SpongeBob gets extremely furious and lets out an angry growl. He yells tartar sauce repeatedly, hides inside his clothes, and goes ballistic. He comes out and everyone stares at him before turning around. Time passes quickly with the window attendant repeatedly calling next while making raspberry sounds. SpongeBob falls asleep standing in line. The window attendant calls next louder and SpongeBob wakes up. The attendant calls next again and SpongeBob realizes he's finally at the front. SpongeBob runs up to the window and asks when the next bus to Bikini Bottom comes. The window attendant asks what while making a raspberry sound. SpongeBob repeats that he wants the bus schedule for the next bus. The window attendant reveals himself and says he can't understand SpongeBob's accent. Each word is separated by raspberry sounds. SpongeBob tries again, this time making raspberry sounds between each word. The next bus to Bikini Bottom. The window attendant finally understands and asks why SpongeBob didn't say so. He says the next bus leaves in 5 seconds while making raspberry sounds. The bus immediately leaves. The attendant says tough luck and that was the last bus until morning. SpongeBob makes raspberry sounds and says the attendant can't do this. The attendant says goodnight and puts up a close sign. SpongeBob insists he's not through and demands the attendant come back and give him a bus to Bikini Bottom right now. He declares he is not leaving his spot until then. He makes 3 raspberry sounds. The lights turn off. SpongeBob laughs nervously and says he'll be right here when the attendant gets back, at this spot, in the dark, by himself, with no one around. He remembers he has his glove light and turns it on, saying that's better. The glove light buzzes with a spark and stops working. After a pause, SpongeBob delivers one of the episode's most memorable lines. This isn't your average everyday darkness. This is advanced darkness. SpongeBob closes his eyes and says if he keeps them closed, it doesn't seem so dark. He hears a raspberry sound in the distance and opens his eyes, asking who's there. SpongeBob walks down the road, saying that spot will be there tomorrow, and he better just keep walking. He hears another raspberry and says he should start running. He hears another raspberry and says he should start sprinting. SpongeBob runs into the 90-degree angle road and sits down with scallops flying around his head. He says he's sitting and bleeding. He hears noise and asks who's there. He warns whoever it is not to come closer and announces he's a sponge. A red light shines around SpongeBob. It's the creature from earlier. SpongeBob says it's only him. The creature ties the white balloon to SpongeBob's wrist. SpongeBob says that solves his balloon problem, but he has a bigger problem. The creature begins blowing the balloon bigger. SpongeBob explains he's stuck and needs to catch a bus to get home. He asks if the creature understands, realizing he probably doesn't. SpongeBob tries communicating with raspberry sounds between words, saying the balloon has enough air. He makes more raspberry sounds as the balloon lifts him into the air. SpongeBob realizes it's balloon travel and thanks the creature while making raspberry sounds. The creature responds, "You're welcome," in perfect English without any raspberry sounds. SpongeBob continues floating while leaving rock bottom. The scene transitions to SpongeBob floating above Bikini Bottom. He passes an entering rock bottom sign on the way up, still with the balloon tied to his wrist. He floats past downtown Bikini Bottom on the way to his home. SpongeBob says he's home at last. The balloon immediately pops. The final scene shows Patrick riding another bus going down to rock bottom. Patrick yells that he's coming back for SpongeBob. The bus passes by Patrick's, Squidward's, and SpongeBob's houses as the episode ends. Rock Bottom became one of Season 1's most memorable episodes for its unique atmosphere and genuine sense of dread. The episode creates fear through isolation, confusion, and helplessness rather than traditional scary imagery. SpongeBob being trapped in a strange place where he can't understand the language, can't catch a bus, and eventually gets stranded in complete darkness, taps into primal fears that resonate with viewers of all ages. The raspberry language became one of Rock Bottom's most distinctive features. Every resident of Rock Bottom speaks by making raspberry sounds between words. This creates an immediate communication barrier that adds to SpongeBob's frustration and isolation. The joke pays off perfectly when SpongeBob finally learns to speak with raspberries to communicate with the window attendant, only to have the last bus leave seconds later. The final payoff comes when the creature who saves SpongeBob speaks perfect English without any raspberries, revealing he could understand SpongeBob the entire time. The Advanced Darkness line became one of the most quoted moments from Season 1. The line perfectly captures the episode's tonal shift from comedy to genuine unease. SpongeBob's nervous joke about having his glove light, followed by the light immediately breaking, creates a moment of real vulnerability. The darkness in Rock Bottom isn't just an absence of light. It's oppressive, isolating, and threatens to consume SpongeBob completely. Rock Bottom's visual design contributed significantly to its unsettling atmosphere. The cell animation of Season 1 gave the episode a grainy, textured quality that enhanced the darkness and shadows. The residents of Rock Bottom have grotesque designs with bulging eyes, strange body shapes, and unsettling movements. The environment itself feels wrong with its perpendicular roads, confusing signage, and alien soil that talks. The episode also showcases excellent physical comedy and escalating frustration. The opening scene with SpongeBob's balloon repeatedly hitting the bus driver establishes the episode's comedic tone. The candy machine sequence demonstrates perfect comedic timing, with buses appearing and disappearing based on whether SpongeBob reaches for the candy. The cardboard cutout and bench disguises show SpongeBob's desperation escalating into absurdity. The bus station sequence provides social commentary about bureaucracy and waiting in lines. SpongeBob declares he's first in line only to discover he's actually far behind. The egg hatching to keep him at position 329 represents how systems can work against individuals through arbitrary rules. The window attendant's inability to understand SpongeBob without raspberries, followed by revealing the last bus just left, captures the frustration of dealing with unhelpful customer service. Rock Bottom demonstrates SpongeBob's resilience and optimism being tested. Throughout most episodes, SpongeBob maintains his cheerful attitude no matter what happens. Rock Bottom pushes him to his breaking point. He gets frustrated, angry, and eventually frightened. The darkness scene shows SpongeBob genuinely scared and alone. This vulnerability makes his character more human, and the eventual rescue more satisfying. Patrick's role in the episode provides both setup and payoff. Patrick accidentally getting on the bus without SpongeBob creates the problem. His complete absence during SpongeBob's ordeal emphasizes SpongeBob's isolation. The final scene revealing Patrick on a bus going back to rescue, SpongeBob demonstrates his loyalty and provides a sweet ending note. Patrick may be dim-witted, but he's trying to help his friend. Rock Bottom aired on the 15th of March 2000 during Season 1, when SpongeBob was still establishing what kinds of stories it could tell. The episode proved the show could create genuine atmosphere and emotion beyond simple comedy. Rock Bottom influenced later episodes that ventured into darker or more surreal territory. The episode's combination of humor, fear, frustration, and heart represents classic SpongeBob storytelling at its finest. 24 years after its premiere, Rock Bottom remains one of Season 1's most discussed and beloved episodes. The Advanced Darkness line endures as a popular meme and cultural reference. The raspberry language became synonymous with rock bottom and communication barriers. The episode's unsettling atmosphere and SpongeBob's helplessness create an experience that stays with viewers long after watching. Rock Bottom took SpongeBob to the depths of the ocean and proved the show could work in darkness as well as light. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the character dynamics: Patrick's intelligence, Squidward's misery, and Mr. Krabs' greed. SpongeBob SquarePants features a cast of characters whose personalities and relationships drive the show's comedy and heart. 3 characters in particular demonstrate how Stephen Hillenburg used both marine biology knowledge and real-life observations to create unforgettable personalities. Patrick Star's peculiar brand of stupidity mixed with occasional wisdom, Squidward Tentacle's constant misery and artistic pretensions, and Mr. Krabs' extreme greed combined with surprising sentimentality form the core dynamics that made classic SpongeBob work. Understanding these characters requires understanding where they came from and why Hillenburg designed them the way he did. Stephen Hillenburg created Patrick, Mr. Krabs, Pearl, and Squidward as the first characters after designing SpongeBob himself. Hillenburg didn't create these characters randomly. He based many of their characteristics on his experiences during his time at the Ocean Institute in California and on the actual traits of their respective species. This foundation in real marine biology gave the characters authentic qualities that made them feel more alive than typical cartoon characters. Patrick Star is a pink starfish who lives under a rock next to SpongeBob's pineapple house. Patrick wears flowered swim trunks and nothing else. His most prominent character trait is his extremely low intelligence. Patrick is SpongeBob's best friend, and the two spend nearly all their free time together. Patrick is typically unemployed throughout the series, though he holds various short-term jobs when specific episodes require it. He frequently works temporary positions at the Krusty Krab when the plot needs him there. Hillenburg based Patrick's personality directly on the nature of real starfish. According to Hillenburg, starfish look dumb and slow when you observe them. They seem like simple, harmless creatures that don't do much. However, starfish are actually very active and aggressive in reality. This contradiction fascinated Hillenburg. He took this quality and built Patrick's entire character around it. Patrick appears stupid and lazy on the surface, but he's capable of surprising bursts of activity and occasional moments of unexpected insight. Patrick's intelligence operates on a unique wavelength that defies normal logic. He asks questions like, "Is mayonnaise an instrument?" with complete sincerity. He can't tell the difference between bathroom signs, even after watching multiple people use them. He forgets what he's talking about mid-conversation. He once couldn't remember his own name. Patrick struggles with basic tasks that children can perform easily. Yet Patrick also demonstrates moments of surprising competence and wisdom that contradict his stupidity. In the episode Texas from Season 1, Patrick delivers a surprisingly eloquent speech about what it means to be stupid. In Band Geeks, Patrick asks the famous mayonnaise question, but then successfully plays electric drums during the Bubble Bowl performance. In various episodes, Patrick shows he understands complex emotions and can offer genuine comfort to SpongeBob when needed. These moments of clarity make Patrick more interesting than a simple idiot character. Bill Fagerbakkie's voice performance captures Patrick's character perfectly. Fagerbakke gives Patrick a slow, dopey voice most of the time that reflects his low intelligence. However, Fagerbakke can shift Patrick's voice to convey different emotions effectively. When Patrick gets angry, Fagerbakke models his performance after American actress Shelley Winters. This gives Patrick's angry moments a specific quality that makes them both funny and somewhat threatening. Just like how real starfish can be surprisingly aggressive, Patrick is generally slow and even-tempered but can sometimes get aggressive, much like actual starfish. Episodes show Patrick kicking Sandy, fighting with other characters, and occasionally displaying violence that seems to come from nowhere. This mirrors how starfish appear peaceful but are actually predators. Real starfish are carnivorous and can be ruthless hunters despite their slow movement. Patrick's occasional bursts of aggression reflect this biological reality. Patrick's relationship with SpongeBob forms the emotional core of many episodes. Patrick loves SpongeBob completely and unconditionally. He would do anything for SpongeBob, even when he doesn't understand what's happening. Patrick's loyalty never wavers, even when his stupidity causes problems. In Pizza Delivery, Patrick wants to help deliver the pizza. In Rock Bottom, Patrick accidentally leaves SpongeBob behind, but the final scene shows him on a bus going back to rescue his friend. The friendship between SpongeBob and Patrick works because they genuinely enjoy each other's company. They laugh at the same things. They share interests in jellyfishing, bubble blowing, and annoying Squidward. Neither character judges the other. SpongeBob never treats Patrick as stupid, even though Patrick clearly is stupid. Patrick never treats SpongeBob as annoying, even though SpongeBob clearly annoys everyone else. Their acceptance of each other makes the friendship feel real. Squidward Tentacles is a turquoise octopus who works as the cashier at the Krusty Krab. He is SpongeBob's next-door neighbor and co-worker. Squidward has a large nose, 4 legs instead of 8, and lives in an Easter Island Moai head statue. Squidward despises his job and his life. He dreams of becoming a famous clarinet player and artist, but possesses minimal talent in either area. He believes himself to be sophisticated and cultured, while everyone around him is an uncultured moron. Squidward's name is a joke because he's actually an octopus, not a squid. Steven Hillenburg and the creative team originally planned to give Squidward 8 legs like a real octopus. The animators discovered that 8 legs made Squidward look too burdened and harder to animate. They reduced his legs to 6, though the show sometimes appears to give him 4 legs depending on the scene. The name Squidward remained despite him being an octopus because it sounded better than Octord. Squidward represents the polar opposite of SpongeBob's personality. SpongeBob is optimistic, enthusiastic, and finds joy in everything. Squidward is pessimistic, cynical, and finds misery in everything. SpongeBob loves his minimum wage job at the Krusty Krab and considers it the best job in the world. Squidward hates his minimum wage job and considers it torture. SpongeBob sees SpongeBob and Patrick as his best friends. Squidward sees SpongeBob and Patrick as his worst enemies. Roger Bumpass voices Squidward and describes him as a very nasally, monotone kind of guy. Bumpass said the character became very interesting to perform because of his sarcasm, frustration, and apoplexy. Squidward experiences a wide spectrum of emotions, mostly negative ones. Bumpass's voice performance captures Squidward's constant state of irritation and superiority complex. Author Arthur Brown compared Squidward's voice to Jack Benny's, though Bumpass says this similarity is mostly unintentional. Squidward's character embodies several personality traits that define him. He is grumpy, rude, sassy, introverted, stubborn, bad-tempered, sarcastic, egotistical, snobby, unhappy, miserable, apathetic, pessimistic, hypocritical, and sometimes sadistic according to character descriptions. He views the world in such a negative light that he is rarely seen greeting anyone with a smile. He maintains a grandiose sense of self while seeing others as uncivilized morons. He fails to accept his own shortcomings while constantly pointing out everyone else's flaws. Despite his terrible attitude, Squidward is actually one of the most intelligent and educated characters in the show. He has knowledge of art, music, literature, and culture that other characters lack. He understands concepts that SpongeBob and Patrick cannot grasp. His intelligence makes his failures more tragic because he's smart enough to recognize how pathetic his life is. He knows he's wasting his potential working at the Krusty Krab but can't escape his situation. Squidward's artistic pretensions form a major aspect of his character. He insists he's a talented clarinet player despite playing terribly. He considers himself a brilliant artist despite creating mediocre or bad art. He believes he has cultivated taste and refined sensibilities that separate him from the common rabble. In the episode Artist Unknown, Squidward teaches SpongeBob about art and insists SpongeBob follow his method. When SpongeBob creates a perfect sculpture of David, Squidward takes credit for creating it himself to impress an art appraiser. Squidward's clarinet playing is consistently shown to be awful. He plays so badly that in the first episode Help Wanted, people from a pet hospital show up thinking there's a dying animal on the premises. However, some episodes suggest Squidward can actually play well when he puts in full effort. In the episode Hello Bikini Bottom, Squidward plays well enough that a music manager offers him and SpongeBob a job. The video game Lights Camera Pants shows Squidward playing competently. He's also first chair in the Bikini Bottom Orchestra. This inconsistency in Squidward's abilities reflects a key aspect of his character. Squidward has potential, but his laziness, arrogance, and bad attitude prevent him from achieving success. He wants to be famous and respected without putting in the work required. When he does make an effort, he can accomplish things. But effort requires caring, and Squidward's defining trait is not caring about anything except his own misery. Squidward's misery comes partly from his living situation. His house is located directly between SpongeBob's pineapple and Patrick's rock. SpongeBob and Patrick make noise constantly, bother him regularly, and refuse to leave him alone. Squidward just wants peace and quiet so he can play his clarinet and paint his self-portraits. Instead, he endures constant interruptions from his 2 neighbors who think they're all friends. The tragedy of Squidward is that SpongeBob and Patrick genuinely care about him even though he despises them. They invite him to activities. They try to cheer him up when he's sad. They consider him part of their friend group. Squidward wants nothing to do with them and makes this clear constantly. But SpongeBob and Patrick either don't understand or don't care that Squidward hates them. This dynamic creates much of the show's conflict and comedy. Episodes occasionally show Squidward's softer side breaking through his bitter exterior. In Pizza Delivery, Squidward defends SpongeBob by slamming a pizza in the rude customer's face. In Band Geeks, Squidward actually cries and shows vulnerability when he thinks the band has failed. In Christmas Who, Squidward's heart grows 3 sizes when he sees how sad SpongeBob is about Santa not coming. These moments prove Squidward isn't completely heartless, even though he acts like he is most of the time. Eugene Harold Krabs, known as Mr. Krabs, is the owner of the Krusty Krab restaurant where SpongeBob and Squidward work. Mr. Krabs is a red crab who speaks like a sailor and runs his restaurant as if it were a pirate ship. His defining characteristic is extreme greed and love of money. Mr. Krabs values money above almost everything else, including the safety and well-being of his employees and customers. His obsession with wealth drives many episodes' plots. Clancy Brown provides Mr. Krabs' voice and delivers a performance that makes the character larger than life. Brown gives Mr. Krabs a rough, growling voice that sounds like an old sailor or pirate. The voice conveys Mr. Krabs' toughness and no-nonsense attitude, while also allowing for comedic moments. Brown can shift from threatening to silly within the same line of dialogue, which suits Mr. Krabs' character perfectly. Steven Hillenburg based Mr. Krabs on a real person from his past. According to Hillenburg, he drew inspiration from his former manager at a seafood restaurant. This manager was redheaded, muscular, and a former army cook. Hillenburg adapted all these traits into Mr. Krabs' character. The military background explains why Mr. Krabs occasionally mentions his Navy service and why he runs the Krusty Krab with military-style discipline. The fact that Mr. Krabs is literally a crab who runs a restaurant adds dark comedy to his character. Crabs are seafood that humans eat regularly. Mr. Krabs owns a restaurant in the ocean that serves food to fish. The Krabby Patty's secret formula remains mysterious throughout the show, leading to jokes and theories about what's actually in the burgers. Mr. Krabs' species being edible creates an underlying tension that the show never directly addresses, but viewers can't help noticing. Mr. Krabs' greed manifests in countless ways throughout the series. He charges SpongeBob money for breathing, standing, and existing near the Krusty Krab. He makes SpongeBob work 24-hour shifts without overtime pay. He tries to steal money from the register. He refuses to spend money on necessary equipment or repairs. He sells clearly spoiled or dangerous food to customers. His eyes literally transform into dollar signs when he sees opportunities to make money. Despite his greed, Mr. Krabs is sometimes portrayed as a father figure to SpongeBob. He gives SpongeBob advice, protects him from danger occasionally, and shows genuine affection toward him. This relationship adds complexity to Mr. Krabs' character. He exploits SpongeBob ruthlessly while also caring about him. In some episodes, Mr. Krabs chooses SpongeBob over money, which demonstrates that his greed has limits. In other episodes, Mr. Krabs sells SpongeBob's soul for 62 cents, showing his greed has no limits. Mr. Krabs has a teenage daughter named Pearl who is a whale. The show never explains how a crab has a whale daughter, and this mystery adds to the absurd humor. Pearl is a gray sperm whale who has no interest in taking over the family business. She wants to listen to pop music, work at the mall, and hang out with friends. Mr. Krabs loves Pearl deeply and wants to leave his fortune to her, even though she doesn't care about the Krusty Krab at all. The relationship between Mr. Krabs and Pearl provides some of the show's more heartfelt moments. Mr. Krabs will spend money on Pearl, even though he refuses to spend money on anything else. In the episode Squeaky Boots, Mr. Krabs buys Pearl expensive boots as a gift. In Midlife Crustacean, Mr. Krabs joins SpongeBob and Patrick on a panty raid that accidentally targets his own mother's house, showing his desire to seem cool and young. These episodes reveal Mr. Krabs' capacity for love and embarrassment. Mr. Krabs' rivalry with Sheldon Plankton drives many episodes' plots. Plankton owns the Chum Bucket, a failing restaurant across the street from the Krusty Krab. Plankton constantly tries to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula to make his own restaurant successful. Mr. Krabs protects the formula obsessively while also taunting Plankton about his failures. Their rivalry supposedly stems from childhood friendship that ended badly, as explained in the episode Friend or Foe. The dynamic between Mr. Krabs and Plankton is interesting because they're former best friends who became bitter enemies over a burger recipe. They both love the same woman, Karen, who ended up marrying Plankton. They both want success in the restaurant business, but only Mr. Krabs achieved it. Their conflict has personal history and emotional weight beyond simple business competition. Episodes featuring their rivalry often reveal vulnerabilities in both characters. Mr. Krabs' character becomes more exaggerated in later seasons of SpongeBob. Early episodes show him as greedy but not completely unreasonable. Later episodes push his greed to absurd extremes, where he commits actual crimes and endangers lives for trivial amounts of money. This flanderization made Mr. Krabs less sympathetic over time. Classic SpongeBob seasons 1 through 3 balanced his greed with occasional generosity and father figure moments that made him more complex. The character dynamics between Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs create the show's social ecosystem. Patrick and SpongeBob are best friends who annoy Squidward constantly. Squidward and SpongeBob are co-workers who have completely opposite worldviews. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob have an employer-employee relationship with elements of father-son dynamics. Mr. Krabs and Squidward are both miserable working at the Krusty Krab, but for different reasons. Patrick has almost no relationship with Mr. Krabs since Patrick doesn't work at the restaurant. These three characters demonstrate three different approaches to life in Bikini Bottom. Patrick represents ignorant bliss. He's too stupid to worry about anything and finds happiness easily because he has no awareness of problems. Squidward represents intelligent misery. He's smart enough to understand how disappointing his life is and can't find happiness anywhere. Mr. Krabs represents single-minded focus. He only cares about money and achieves success by pursuing one goal obsessively. SpongeBob serves as the lens through which viewers experience these three characters. SpongeBob loves Patrick unconditionally and never questions their friendship. SpongeBob annoys Squidward without realizing it and tries constantly to be his friend. SpongeBob worships Mr. Krabs as his hero and boss while accepting exploitation as normal. SpongeBob's interactions with these three characters create the majority of the show's comedy and conflict. The balance between these character dynamics made classic SpongeBob work so well. No character was completely good or completely bad. Patrick was stupid but loyal. Squidward was mean but occasionally kind. Mr. Krabs was greedy but sometimes generous. These contradictions made them feel like real personalities rather than one-dimensional cartoon characters. The relationships between characters had genuine emotional stakes that made audiences care about what happened. Steven Hillenburg's background in marine biology influenced these characters in subtle ways beyond their species traits. Hillenburg understood that real ocean ecosystems involve different creatures with different survival strategies, all living near each other. Starfish are simple but effective. Octopuses are intelligent but solitary. Crabs are tough and resource-focused. Hillenburg took these ecological strategies and turned them into personality types that could interact comedically. The character designs also reflected Hillenburg's artistic influences and the show's overall aesthetic. Patrick's simple triangular shape makes him easy to animate and visually distinctive. Squidward's long face and drooping features convey his misery without dialogue. Mr. Krabs' claws, stalked eyes, and hunched posture make him look simultaneously threatening and comical. These designs work in cell animation, digital animation, and merchandise, which has helped SpongeBob maintain visual consistency. 25 years after SpongeBob premiered, these three characters remain iconic. Patrick's stupidity has inspired countless memes. Squidward became a symbol for adult viewers who relate to his misery and cynicism. Mr. Krabs' greed has been analyzed in economics classes and political discussions. The characters transcended their original context to become cultural symbols that represent different aspects of human nature and society. The character dynamics between Patrick's intelligence, Squidward's misery, and Mr. Krabs' greed created the foundation for SpongeBob's comedy and heart. These three characters, combined with SpongeBob's optimism, formed a perfect ecosystem of personalities that could generate endless stories. Understanding these characters means understanding why classic SpongeBob worked so brilliantly and why these personalities continue resonating with audiences across generations. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to From Storyboard to Screen, the rough draft Korea animation process. SpongeBob SquarePants episodes require approximately 50 people working together to animate and produce each 11-minute story. This collaborative process spans 2 continents and involves multiple stages of production from initial concept to finished broadcast. The creation of a single SpongeBob episode represents months of work by talented artists, animators, writers, and technicians who each contribute essential skills to the final product. Understanding this process reveals the incredible amount of effort required to make even the simplest cartoon scenes come to life. The production process for SpongeBob SquarePants has been handled domestically at Nickelodeon Animation Studio in Burbank, California, throughout the show's entire run. This studio serves as the creative headquarters, where episodes begin their journey from ideas to finished animations. The California-based crew handles all the initial creative work, including writing, storyboarding, character design, and post-production. These early stages establish what each episode will look like, sound like, and feel like before any actual animation occurs. The animation production itself happens overseas at Rough Draft Studios, located in South Korea. Rough Draft Studios has been SpongeBob's animation partner since the show's beginning in 1999. This international collaboration represents the standard workflow for American television animation that developed during the 1,990 seconds and continues today. The California studio creates the blueprints, while the Korean studio brings those blueprints to life through frame-by-frame animation work. Every SpongeBob episode starts with writers developing story ideas. The writing staff meets to pitch concepts, discuss what's funny, and decide which ideas have enough material for a full episode. Once a story concept gets approved, writers create an outline showing the basic plot structure. This outline includes the beginning setup, middle complications, and ending resolution. The outline ensures everyone understands what happens in the episode before detailed work begins. After the outline is approved, the writing moves to script format. However, SpongeBob doesn't use traditional television scripts with dialogue and stage directions. Instead, the show uses storyboards as its primary storytelling document. This approach comes from Stephen Hillenburg's background in animation rather than live-action television. Hillenburg understood that animation is a visual medium where pictures often communicate more effectively than words. The storyboard process represents where SpongeBob episodes truly take shape. Storyboard artists receive the story outline and begin drawing every scene of the episode panel by panel. These drawings show character positions, facial expressions, camera angles, and action sequences. The storyboard artists essentially create a comic book version of the entire episode. Each storyboard panel includes notes about what characters say, what sound effects occur, and what emotions the scene should convey. Creating storyboards for an 11-minute SpongeBob episode requires hundreds of individual drawings. Storyboard artists must visualize how each scene flows into the next scene. They decide when to use close-ups versus wide shots. They determine how characters move through space. They plan visual gags and comedic timing. The storyboard serves as the blueprint that every other department will follow, so it must be detailed and clear. SpongeBob storyboard artists often work in pairs or teams. Two artists might collaborate on a single episode, dividing scenes between them, or working together on complicated sequences. This collaborative approach allows artists to bounce ideas off each other and solve problems together. The teamwork also speeds up production since storyboarding an entire episode alone would take too long to maintain the show's production schedule. During the first 3 seasons, Stephen Hillenburg and creative director Derek Dryman oversaw the storyboard process closely. They reviewed storyboards, gave feedback, and ensured each episode matched their creative vision for the show. Hillenburg understood story structure and character dynamics from his experience on Rocko's Modern Life. He could identify when storyboards weren't working and help artists find better solutions. This hands-on creative direction during seasons 1 through 3 contributed to what fans call SpongeBob's golden era. Once the storyboards are completed and approved, they become the templates that get sent to Rough Draft Studios in South Korea. The storyboards travel overseas, either as physical documents or digital files. These storyboards contain everything the Korean animation team needs to create the finished episode. The storyboard artists have done the creative work of deciding what viewers will see. The Korean animators now do the technical work of actually drawing it. Rough Draft Studios receives the storyboards and begins the animation process. The studio employs hundreds of animators who specialize in different aspects of animation production. Some animators draw characters. Others draw backgrounds. Some handle effects like bubbles, smoke, or underwater particles. Others work on timing and spacing to ensure smooth movement. This division of labor allows Rough Draft to produce animation efficiently while maintaining quality. The first step Rough Draft takes is creating layouts based on the storyboards. Layout artists take each storyboard panel and refine it into a more detailed drawing. They establish the exact positions of characters and objects in the scene. They determine the precise camera angle and framing. Layout artists ensure that backgrounds and characters will work together properly. These layouts serve as the foundation for all subsequent animation work. After layouts are approved, the actual frame-by-frame animation begins. Animation requires drawing characters in slightly different positions for each frame to create the illusion of movement. Television animation typically uses 12 drawings per second, with each drawing photographed twice, resulting in 24 frames per second. An 11-minute episode contains approximately 660 seconds of animation, requiring roughly 7,920 individual character drawings if every frame is unique. In practice, animators reuse some drawings and hold certain frames longer to work more efficiently, but the number remains enormous. During Season 1, this animation process involved drawing characters on paper, then transferring those drawings onto transparent cell sheets. The drawings were inked onto the cells by hand. Then painters would flip the cells over and carefully paint colors on the reverse side. Each cell required multiple colors that had to be applied separately and allowed to dry completely. This cell animation process was time-consuming and labor-intensive, but created the distinctive handcrafted look that makes Season 1 unique. The background art for Season 1 was also created by hand. Background artists painted entire scenes on large sheets of paper or board using traditional painting techniques. These backgrounds showed the locations where action would occur: the Krusty Krab interior, SpongeBob's Pineapple House, Jellyfish Fields, and Bikini Bottom streets. Each background was a unique piece of art created specifically for that scene. The hand-painted backgrounds gave Season 1 a textured, organic quality. After the cells were painted and backgrounds were completed, the cell animation had to be photographed. This process involved placing the transparent character cells on top of the painted backgrounds and photographing them one frame at a time. The camera would photograph the background with one cell on top. Then that cell would be removed and the next cell placed down for the following frame. This process repeated thousands of times for each episode. The resulting filmed footage became the animated episode. The transition from Season 1 to Season 2 brought a major change in the animation process. Executive producer Paul Tibbitt explained in a 2009 interview that Season 1 was done the old-fashioned way on cells, with every cell being part painted, left to dry, then painted with other colors. Starting with Season 2, production shifted to digital ink and paint animation. This meant animators still drew characters on paper by hand, but then those drawings were scanned into computers. Digital ink and paint changed the workflow significantly. After drawings were scanned, artists used software to ink the lines digitally and paint the colors digitally. This eliminated the physical cell sheets entirely. Digital painting allowed for immediate corrections if mistakes occurred. Colors could be changed instantly without repainting anything. The drying time that slowed down cell animation no longer existed. Tibbitt noted that while the digital process still takes time, it doesn't take nearly as long to correct mistakes compared to the old cell method. The backgrounds also transitioned to digital creation, starting in Season 2. Background artists could paint backgrounds digitally using software, allowing for more detail and easier revisions. The digital backgrounds became more vibrant and colorful compared to Season 1's more subdued palette. The technology allowed artists to add layers, adjust colors globally, and create more complex scenes than traditional painting methods easily permitted. In 2008, another technological advancement occurred when the SpongeBob production began using drawing tablets. Drawing tablets allow artists to draw directly on computer screens rather than on paper that gets scanned. The 5th season episode, Pest of the West, was the first episode where the crew applied this drawing tablet method. This shift made the animation process even faster and more flexible because it eliminated the scanning step entirely. Throughout all these technological changes, Rough Draft Studios maintained its role as SpongeBob's animation partner. The studio adapted its workflow to incorporate new digital tools while maintaining the quality and style that SpongeBob required. The animators in South Korea became experts at matching Steven Hillenburg's vision and maintaining consistency across hundreds of episodes spanning multiple animation techniques. The animation process requires close communication between the California studio and Rough Draft in South Korea, despite the distance. Color models must be precise, so characters always look correct. Character designs must be followed carefully, so SpongeBob looks like SpongeBob in every frame. The Korean animators work from the storyboards created in California, but they need to interpret those storyboards and make countless small decisions about exact positioning, timing, and movement. Rough Draft Studios doesn't just animate SpongeBob characters mechanically. The animators add personality to the movements through their artistic choices. How SpongeBob walks, how his face squashes and stretches during expressions, how his body moves when he laughs. All these details come from the Korean animators' skill and understanding of the characters. The best animation makes characters feel alive rather than just moving from point A to point B. The character designs for SpongeBob were created to be animation-friendly. SpongeBob's simple square shape makes him relatively easy to draw consistently. Patrick's triangular starfish shape also animates smoothly. However, characters like Squidward with his long face and tentacles present more challenges. Mr. Krabs with his claws, eye stalks, and crab legs requires careful attention to maintain consistency. The animators at Rough Draft became experts at drawing these characters after years of practice. Special effects represent another crucial aspect of the animation process. SpongeBob takes place underwater, so every scene needs bubbles, water particles, and flowing movement to sell the underwater environment. Effects animators create these elements separately from character animation. Bubbles floating across scenes, particle effects, lighting effects, and other visual flourishes all require additional animation work beyond just moving characters around. While Rough Draft Studios handles the animation in South Korea, the California studio continues working on other aspects of production simultaneously. The voice actors record their performances before animation is finalized. Tom Kenny, Bill Fagerbakke, Roger Bumpass, Clancy Brown, and the other voice actors record together in the same room using old radio show style. They read through the episode while looking at storyboards to understand what's happening visually. Recording voices before final animation allows the animators to match mouth movements to the actual dialogue. This process is called animating to dialogue. The animators receive the voice recordings and can time character mouth movements precisely to match what the actors said. This creates the illusion that animated characters are actually speaking rather than just moving their mouths randomly. Getting this synchronization correct requires careful attention to timing. Steven Hillenburg and Derek Dreiman sat in the recording studio during the first 3 seasons to direct the voice actors. Hillenburg would explain what emotions he wanted in specific scenes and guide the performances. Having the show's creator present during recording ensured the voices matched his creative vision. Andrea Romano became the voice director starting in Season 4 after Hillenburg stepped back from day-to-day production. Tom Kenny eventually took over voice directing duties during Season 9. After the animation returns from South Korea, the post-production work begins in California. Post-production involves adding all the elements that complete the episode beyond just the animation. This includes sound effects, music, final voice track integration, color correction, and editing. Post-production transforms raw animation into a finished episode ready for broadcast. Sound effects play an enormous role in SpongeBob's comedy. The sound design team adds thousands of individual sound effects to each episode. Footsteps, door slams, crashes, splashes, squeaks, and countless other sounds fill every scene. SpongeBob uses a distinctive sound effects library that gives the show its unique audio signature. Many sound effects are deliberately silly or exaggerated to enhance the cartoon comedy. The music for SpongeBob comes primarily from the APM Music Library, a production music library containing thousands of pre-recorded tracks. The show's music editors select appropriate tracks for each scene from this library. SpongeBob uses Hawaiian-themed music extensively to create its tropical underwater atmosphere. Tracks like Hawaiian Cocktail, Hawaiian Train, and Aloha Oi appear repeatedly throughout the series. The music helps establish the show's laid-back, beachy vibe. Original music also gets composed for special episodes and movies. The song Sweet Victory from Band Geeks was written specifically for that episode by David Glenn Isley and Bob Kulick. The Krusty Krab Pizza song from Pizza Delivery was created for that episode. These original songs require additional production work, including composing, recording, and integrating into the episode. Original music costs more than library music, but creates memorable moments that define certain episodes. The editing process assembles all these elements, animation, voices, sound effects, and music into the final episode. Editors ensure everything syncs properly and flows smoothly from scene to scene. They can adjust timing slightly if needed to make jokes land better or improve pacing. The editor's work is crucial for making the episode feel polished and professional, rather than like disconnected pieces stitched together. Color correction happens during post-production to ensure the episode looks consistent throughout. Digital tools allow colorists to adjust brightness, contrast, and color balance across the entire episode. This ensures that scenes match visually, even if they were animated at different times or by different artists. Color correction became more important as animation went digital, because monitors and screens can display colors differently. The entire production process from initial story concept to finished episode takes several months. Writing and storyboarding might take 4 to 6 weeks. Animation in South Korea might take another 6 to 8 weeks. Post-production could take 2 to 4 weeks. The exact timeline varies depending on episode complexity and production schedule demands. SpongeBob typically produces episodes in batches rather than one at a time to make the workflow more efficient. This international collaboration between the California studio and Rough Draft Studios in South Korea represents how modern animation production functions. American studios focus on creative development, while Asian studios handle the labor-intensive animation work. This division of labor emerged during the 1,980 seconds and 1,990 seconds as American animation studios sought ways to produce television animation more affordably while maintaining quality. The storyboard-driven approach that SpongeBob uses became influential across the animation industry. Rather than writing detailed scripts, shows increasingly use storyboards to develop stories visually. This approach suits animation better than traditional script writing because it accounts for visual comedy, physical gags, and character expressions that don't translate well to written dialogue. SpongeBob helped prove that storyboard-driven production could create sophisticated comedy. Rough Draft Studios has animated numerous other successful shows beyond SpongeBob. The studio worked on Futurama, The Simpsons, The Ren and Stimpy Show, and many other acclaimed animated series. Rough Draft's expertise in television animation made them the perfect partner for SpongeBob's demanding production schedule. The studio's ability to match different shows' visual styles while maintaining consistent quality established them as one of the animation industry's most reliable studios. The approximately 50 people working on each SpongeBob episode include storyboard artists, layout artists, character animators, background artists, effects animators, voice actors, sound designers, music editors, post-production editors, and production coordinators. Each person contributes specialized skills that others on the team don't possess. The collaborative nature of animation production requires clear communication and mutual respect between all departments. Steven Hillenburg's vision for SpongeBob emphasized teamwork and collaboration. He valued people who could work together toward a common creative goal rather than seeking individual glory. This philosophy influenced how the production team functioned. Everyone understood they were serving the show rather than trying to show off personal abilities. This team-first mentality contributed to SpongeBob's consistent quality during its early seasons. The production process evolved over 25 years as technology changed. Season 1's hand-painted cells gave way to Season 2's digital ink and paint, which gave way to Season 5's drawing tablets. Each technological advancement made production faster and more flexible. However, technology alone doesn't create great animation. The human artists making creative decisions about character movement, comedic timing, and visual storytelling remain essential regardless of what tools they use. The workflow from storyboard to screen represents a carefully orchestrated system where each stage depends on the previous stage being completed correctly. If storyboards aren't clear, animators in South Korea won't know what to draw. If animation isn't timed properly, voice actors' dialogue won't match. If sound effects are poorly chosen, funny moments won't land. Every department must execute their responsibilities competently for the final episode to succeed. Understanding this production process reveals the remarkable achievement that SpongeBob represents. Over 300 episodes have been produced using this international collaboration between California and South Korea. Thousands of artists, animators, and technicians have contributed to SpongeBob's success over 25 years. The show's longevity and consistency demonstrate that the production system Hillenburg and his team established works effectively. From storyboard to screen, the Rough Draft Korea animation process transforms creative ideas into finished SpongeBob episodes that have entertained millions of viewers worldwide. The approximately 50 people working together on each episode bring specialized talents that combine to create something greater than any individual could achieve alone. This collaborative international production system represents the modern animation industry at its best, creating beloved entertainment through teamwork, technical skill, and creative vision spanning 2 continents. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Meme Factory, how classic SpongeBob conquered the internet. SpongeBob SquarePants became one of the most memeable television shows in internet history. Seasons 1 through 3 inches particular generated countless memes, reaction images, and quotable moments that spread across social media platforms, starting in the early 2000s and exploding in popularity during the 2010 seconds. The show's combination of absurd humor, expressive character animation, memorable dialogue, and universal relatability created perfect conditions for meme culture to flourish. Understanding how SpongeBob conquered the internet requires examining which specific moments became memes, why those moments resonated, and how a cartoon about a talking sponge became the common language of online communication. SpongeBob premiered on the 1st of May 1999, which placed it at an ideal moment in internet history. The show began during the early days of widespread internet access, when people were just starting to share content online through forums, message boards, and early social media platforms. As internet culture grew throughout the 2000s and 2010 seconds, SpongeBob grew with it. The show had a built-in audience of millennials who watched it as children and young adults who could now share their favorite moments online as memes. The term meme itself comes from evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins' 1976 book, The Selfish Gene, where he described memes as ideas or cultural phenomena that spread from person to person. Internet memes specifically refer to images, videos, phrases, or concepts that spread rapidly online through sharing and remixing. SpongeBob proved extraordinarily well-suited for internet meme culture because the show was designed around quotable dialogue and expressive visual comedy that worked perfectly as short, shareable content. One of the most famous SpongeBob memes is Mocking SpongeBob, also called Mocking SpongeBob Chicken, or simply the SpongeBob Mocking meme. This meme uses an image of SpongeBob with a contorted face and bent posture. The image comes from the Season 9 episode Little Yellow Book. In that episode, Squidward reads SpongeBob's diary and discovers that SpongeBob acts like a chicken whenever he sees plaid. Mr. Krabs wears a plaid kilt and SpongeBob immediately starts clucking and bending over with his hands positioned like chicken wings. The Mocking SpongeBob meme didn't become popular until years after the episode aired. The episode premiered in 2012, but the meme didn't explode until around 2017. People used the meme to mock someone else's statement by repeating what they said in alternating capital and lowercase letters, like "I don't like SpongeBob memes." The alternating letters represent a mocking, chicken-like voice. The meme became so popular that Tom Kenny himself, SpongeBob's voice actor, said at the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con that Mocking SpongeBob is his favorite SpongeBob meme. Caveman SpongeBob, also called Primitive SpongeBob, or incorrectly called SpongeGar, comes from the Season 1 episode SB 129. In that episode, Squidward travels back in time and meets prehistoric versions of SpongeBob and Patrick. The image shows primitive SpongeBob standing with his arms and legs spread out in a defensive or startled posture. His face shows wide eyes and an open mouth suggesting confusion or alarm. The meme typically represents awkward, stressful, uncomfortable situations or moments when you need to brace yourself. Many people incorrectly call this character SpongeGar, but SpongeGar is actually a different prehistoric sponge character who appears in the Season 3 episode Ugh. SpongeGar is one of SpongeBob's ancestors who looks similar to primitive SpongeBob but is a distinct character. The actual primitive SpongeBob from SB 129 doesn't have an official name. Despite this confusion, the image became one of SpongeBob's most recognizable memes. The meme often uses the format when it's, followed by a description of an uncomfortable situation with the primitive SpongeBob image layered onto another background. The phrase, "Is mayonnaise an instrument?" became one of the most quoted SpongeBob lines in internet history. The line comes from Band Geeks when Squidward asks his band members if anyone has played musical instruments before. Patrick raises his hand and asks this question with complete sincerity. Squidward responds that no, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Patrick raises his hand again, and Squidward cuts him off by saying horseradish is not an instrument either. The absurdity of Patrick's question combined with his genuine confusion made this moment instantly memorable and infinitely quotable. Band Geeks generated numerous memes beyond just the mayonnaise line. The phrase, "Is mayonnaise an instrument?" appears constantly in online discussions about music, cooking, or whenever someone asks an obviously stupid question. The question works as a meme because it represents willful ignorance or deliberately asking something absurd. People use it ironically to mock someone else's lack of knowledge or to make jokes about unrelated topics. Another iconic Band Geeks moment that became a meme involves the big meaty claws argument between Harold and Mr. Krabs. Harold says maybe they wouldn't sound so bad if some people didn't try to play with big meaty claws. Mr. Krabs angrily demands to know what Harold said. Harold shouts even louder, "Big, meaty, claws." Mr. Krabs responds that these claws aren't just for attracting mates, and Harold tells him to bring it on. This escalation from musical criticism to physical confrontation became a template for memes about arguments that spiral out of control. The phrase, "No, this is Patrick," became another massively popular SpongeBob meme. This line comes from the Season 2 episode Big Pink Loser. In that episode, Patrick gets a job at the Krusty Krab and answers the phone. When customers call asking, "Is this the Krusty Krab?" Patrick responds, "No, this is Patrick," in an annoyed voice. He does this repeatedly throughout the episode, getting increasingly frustrated each time. The meme uses this phrase whenever someone asks a question and receives an intentionally unhelpful or literal answer. The imagination meme comes from the Season 3 episode Idiot Box. SpongeBob and Patrick get a large television but throw it away to play in the cardboard box instead. When Squidward questions this decision, SpongeBob creates a rainbow with his hands and says, "Imagination," while drawing out the word. SpongeBob's gesture and expression while saying this became an iconic image used whenever discussing creativity, make-believe, or mocking someone for believing something unrealistic. The rainbow hand gesture itself became recognizable enough that people could recreate it and others would immediately understand the SpongeBob reference. The chocolate. Screaming customer from Chocolate with Nuts became a legendary SpongeBob character despite appearing in only one episode. Tom chases SpongeBob and Patrick throughout the episode while screaming the word chocolate over and over in an increasingly deranged voice. At the end, he reveals he just wanted to buy all their chocolate and wasn't actually crazy. The chocolate screaming character became a meme representing obsessive desire for something or chasing something desperately. People use images and clips of him screaming, "Chocolate," to express intense craving or excitement. The "my leg" running gag became one of SpongeBob's most enduring memes. Fred, a background fish character, appears throughout the series screaming, "My leg," whenever he gets injured. The first notable instance occurs in the Season 1 episode Arg, when Mr. Krabs throws a customer out of the Krusty Krab during a treasure hunt. The customer screams, "My leg," and this sound effect gets reused throughout the series in different contexts. The phrase became a meme, representing any minor injury or complaint. Some fans created compilation videos collecting every instance of the "my leg" scream across hundreds of episodes. Pizza delivery contributed several memes to SpongeBob's internet legacy. The scene where SpongeBob declares, "It's not just a boulder, it's a rock," while crying and hugging a rock became a famous meme about finding meaning in simple things. The Krusty Krab pizza song that SpongeBob sings throughout the episode became extremely quotable. Lines like, "The Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza for you and me" get referenced constantly online. The image of SpongeBob riding the rock with the caption about pioneers riding these babies for miles became another popular meme. The tired SpongeBob meme shows SpongeBob leaning exhausted against something with bags under his eyes. This image comes from the Season 1 episode Nature Pants, when SpongeBob and Patrick are hiding from each other in jellyfish fields. SpongeBob looks completely exhausted and defeated. This image became a meme representing burnout, exhaustion, or being done with everything. People pair the image with captions about being tired from work, school, or life in general. The Evil Patrick or Savage Patrick meme comes from the same episode, Nature Pants, shortly after the tired SpongeBob moment. Patrick stares menacingly with a sinister expression that suggests he's planning something evil. This frame became a meme used whenever someone does something savage, mean, or coldly calculated. Common captions include things like, when you see your crush with someone else, or when someone says they're not hungry but then wants your food. The meme works because Patrick's normally friendly face, twisted into evil intent, creates perfect contrast. Rock Bottom generated memes through its unique atmosphere and memorable quotes. SpongeBob's line, "This isn't your average everyday darkness. This is advanced darkness," became widely quoted online. People use it to describe situations that are worse than normal bad situations, adding advanced as an intensifier. The raspberry language from Rock Bottom also became a meme, with people adding random raspberry sounds to sentences to indicate confusion or communication barriers. The item a head out meme comes from Season 2's The Smoking Peanut. The image shows SpongeBob starting to leave his chair with a caption expressing the desire to exit a situation. People use this meme when they want to leave somewhere, give up on something, or remove themselves from an uncomfortable scenario. The meme works because SpongeBob's posture perfectly captures the moment of deciding to abandon a situation before fully committing to leaving. Squidward generated numerous memes because his misery and cynicism resonated with adult viewers. The image of Squidward looking annoyed, depressed, or suffering appears in countless memes. Squidward's quote, "I have no soul" from various episodes became a meme about being dead inside. Images of Squidward sleeping, being lazy at work, or displaying complete apathy toward his job became extremely relatable to working adults who discovered they identified more with Squidward than SpongeBob as they got older. The surprised Patrick meme shows Patrick with his mouth wide open in shock. This expression appears in multiple episodes but became a standard reaction image online. People use surprised Patrick to express shock, disbelief, or being caught off guard by information. The image works because Patrick's simple face can convey pure surprise without other complicated emotions, making it versatile for many contexts. Several factors explain why SpongeBob became so memeable compared to other cartoons. First, the show's expressive animation style created numerous distinct facial expressions and body poses that work perfectly as reaction images. The animators pushed character designs to extreme positions during emotional moments. These extreme expressions photograph well and convey strong emotions clearly, even as static images separated from their original context. Second, SpongeBob's dialogue writing included numerous quotable one-liners and exchanges that work independently of their episodes. Lines like, "Is mayonnaise an instrument?" or "No, this is Patrick," make sense and are funny even if you've never seen the episodes they come from. The writing combined absurdist humor with relatable situations, creating quotes that apply to many different contexts beyond their original scenes. Third, SpongeBob had mass appeal across age groups and demographics. Children watched the show for the silly humor and colorful characters. Teenagers and adults appreciated the clever writing, subtle adult humor, and satirical elements. This broad appeal meant that when internet culture emerged, SpongeBob had a huge potential audience of people familiar with the show who could recognize and share references. Fourth, the show's visual style and character designs are simple enough to be easily recognizable, but distinctive enough to be memorable. SpongeBob's square yellow body, Patrick's pink star shape, and Squidward's long nose are all instantly identifiable even in low-quality images or when edited into other contexts. This visual clarity helps SpongeBob memes spread because people immediately recognize what they're looking at. Fifth, SpongeBob ran for many seasons and produced hundreds of episodes, creating an enormous library of potential meme material. Even though seasons 1 through 3 generated the majority of classic memes, the show's longevity meant new generations discovered SpongeBob and created new memes from different episodes. The constant availability of SpongeBob through television reruns, streaming services, and DVD releases kept the show accessible to meme creators. The timing of SpongeBob's premiere in 1999 positioned it perfectly for meme culture. The show aired during a transitional period when internet access was spreading rapidly, but social media hadn't yet emerged. The children and teenagers watching SpongeBob in 1999 through 2004 became the young adults creating meme culture in the late 2000s and 2010 seconds. These millennials grew up with SpongeBob and brought their nostalgia and familiarity with the show into their online interactions. Social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and Tumblr accelerated SpongeBob meme spread during the 2010 seconds. These platforms made sharing images and short videos extremely easy. Users could post a SpongeBob meme and have thousands or millions of people see it within hours. The viral nature of social media meant successful memes spread exponentially as people shared them with their own followers. SpongeBob memes work across cultural and language barriers better than many other types of memes. The visual humor translates without requiring language knowledge. Someone who doesn't speak English can still understand the emotion in a SpongeBob facial expression. This universal quality helped SpongeBob memes spread internationally. Different countries and language communities created their own versions of SpongeBob memes, adding captions in their own languages while using the same images. The show's meme ability also comes from its emotional range. SpongeBob includes comedy, sadness, anger, fear, confusion, and nearly every other emotion portrayed through exaggerated cartoon expressions. This emotional variety means there's a SpongeBob image for almost any situation someone might want to express online. Need to show happiness? There's a SpongeBob for that. Need to show exhaustion? There's a SpongeBob for that. Need to show existential dread? There's definitely a Squidward for that. SpongeBob memes became so prevalent that they formed their own subcategory of internet culture. Facebook groups dedicated to SpongeBob memes have millions of members. Instagram accounts posting SpongeBob memes have millions of followers. Reddit communities discuss and share SpongeBob content daily. The SpongeBob meme community created a self-sustaining ecosystem where people constantly create, share, and remix SpongeBob content. Mary-Kate James created a Facebook group called SpongeBob Memes that grew to over 2.8 million followers. In a 2024 interview, James explained she started the group in May 2020, after being frustrated with other SpongeBob groups that posted inappropriate content or spam instead of actual memes. She wanted a group focused on real memes and SpongeBob-related content. James described maintaining the group as challenging but rewarding because it creates a space where people share humor and connect over their love of SpongeBob. The emotional connection people feel to SpongeBob memes goes deeper than just finding them funny. For many people, SpongeBob represents childhood memories and nostalgia. Sharing SpongeBob memes becomes a way to connect with others who share that same childhood experience. The memes serve as cultural touchstones that indicate shared generational identity. When someone posts a SpongeBob meme and others immediately recognize it, that recognition creates social bonding. Steven Hillenburg probably never imagined that SpongeBob would become such a central part of internet culture when he created the show. Hillenburg focused on making episodes that made him and his team laugh while telling good stories. The fact that these episodes contained so many moments that would later become memes was accidental rather than intentional. The show's quality and memorability naturally led to its meme success rather than being designed for that purpose. SpongeBob's influence on meme culture became so significant that Nickelodeon and Paramount eventually acknowledged and embraced it. The companies recognized that memes kept SpongeBob relevant with young adult audiences who had aged out of the show's target demographic. Rather than fighting against meme culture or trying to control how people use SpongeBob content, Nickelodeon leaned into it. Official SpongeBob social media accounts sometimes post memes or reference popular memes, showing awareness of how fans engage with the show online. The Super Bowl LIII controversy in 2019 demonstrated SpongeBob meme culture's real-world impact. After Steven Hillenburg died in November 2018, over 1.2 million people signed an online petition asking the NFL to perform Sweet Victory from band Geeks during the halftime show. The massive petition showed that SpongeBob had transcended being just a cartoon and become a cultural force powerful enough to mobilize millions of people. Though the halftime show disappointed fans by only including a brief clip instead of the full song, the petition itself proved SpongeBob's cultural significance. SpongeBob memes continue evolving as new platforms and formats emerge. TikTok videos use SpongeBob audio clips and images. YouTube compilations collect memorable SpongeBob moments. Discord servers use SpongeBob emojis and stickers. Every new social media platform that emerges eventually gets filled with SpongeBob content because the show's vast library of material and universal recognition make it perfect for any format. The longevity of SpongeBob memes exceeds most internet trends. Many memes have short lifespans, becoming popular for weeks or months before fading into obscurity. SpongeBob memes have remained popular for over a decade, with no signs of declining. New SpongeBob memes continue emerging while old ones remain in circulation. This sustained relevance is rare in internet culture, where trends usually die quickly. Classic SpongeBob from seasons 1 through 3 provides the majority of popular memes, because these seasons represent the show's creative peak. The writing, animation, and character dynamics during these seasons created the most memorable and quotable content. While later seasons produce some memes, they don't approach the density or popularity of early SpongeBob memes. This makes sense because seasons 1 through 3 had Steven Hillenburg's direct involvement and the original creative team working together. The meme factory that classic SpongeBob became wasn't planned or manufactured. It emerged organically from millions of people who loved the show, recognizing that SpongeBob moments perfectly expressed their own feelings and experiences. The internet gave these people tools to share those moments with each other. SpongeBob's quality, memorability, emotional range, and universal appeal created ideal conditions for meme culture to flourish. 25 years after premiering, SpongeBob SquarePants conquered the internet by being exactly what it always was: funny, expressive, quotable, and beloved by people across the world who found their own feelings reflected in a talking yellow sponge and his friends. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Pickles, when Bubble Bass destroyed SpongeBob's confidence. Pickles aired on the 21st of August 1999 as episode 6B of SpongeBob SquarePants Season 1. The episode drew 2.94 million viewers during its initial broadcast on Nickelodeon. Pickles is widely considered one of the quintessential SpongeBob episodes because it explores SpongeBob's defining characteristic, his dedication to his job at the Krusty Krab. The episode demonstrates what happens when SpongeBob's confidence gets destroyed and how his entire life falls apart when he can't make Krabby Patties correctly. Pickles also introduced Bubble Bass, one of the most memorable one-time antagonists in SpongeBob history. The episode begins at the Krusty Krab with an exterior shot before cutting to Squidward taking an order. Squidward greets a customer and offers to take his order. The customer hesitates repeatedly, starting to order and then changing his mind. Squidward takes out his pencil and paper multiple times as the customer says maybe he'll have something, only to put them away when the customer says no. This happens several times in a row. Squidward asks if the customer is planning on ordering today. The customer finally decides he'll have a Krabby Patty. Squidward writes down the order and sarcastically says, "How original." The customer adds that he wants extra onions. Squidward responds with dripping sarcasm, asking if the customer is being daring today. He takes the order and shows it to SpongeBob, saying 1 Krabby Patty with extra onions. SpongeBob takes the order slip and puts it with the rest of the orders. He announces 1 Crying Johnny coming up, which is apparently restaurant slang for a burger with extra onions. SpongeBob cracks his knuckles and begins preparing the Krabby Patty while narrating each step. He says first bun, then patty, followed by ketchup, mustard, pickles, extra onions, lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, and bun, in that order. This narration establishes the canonical order of Krabby Patty ingredients, which becomes crucial later in the episode. SpongeBob completes the burger, announces 1 Crying Johnny, and rings the bell. Squidward takes the plate and delivers it. Another customer approaches and orders 12 Krabby Patties on wheat buns. Squidward relays this order to SpongeBob. SpongeBob takes a plate and patties begin appearing on it as he works at rapid speed. He repeats the ingredients over and over at incredible velocity. Bun, patty, ketchup, tomato, bun repeated 12 times. He completes all 12 burgers in seconds and announces at normal speed that he has 1 dozen crying cows on the farm. Squidward takes the plate and sarcastically thanks Farmer Brown. These opening scenes establish SpongeBob as an incredibly skilled and fast fry cook who knows the Krabby Patty formula perfectly. His ability to make 12 burgers in seconds while maintaining quality shows his mastery of his craft. The restaurant slang like Crying Johnny and Crying Cows demonstrates that SpongeBob has professional expertise despite his childlike personality. These scenes set up what makes the episode's conflict so devastating. SpongeBob is actually excellent at his job. A large, overweight fish walks up to order. Squidward makes a sarcastic joke, asking if the tiny customer wants a small salad. The customer, who is named Bubble Bass, begins ordering in complicated restaurant terminology. He says he wants a double-triple bossy deluxe on a raft, 4x4, animal style, extra shingles with a shimmy and a squeeze, light axle grease, make it cry, burn it, and let it swim. Squidward tries to write this down but gives up, and just stares at Bubble Bass. Squidward tells Bubble Bass that they serve food here, implying the order was nonsense. SpongeBob suddenly appears with the completed order and says he already has it. SpongeBob gasps when he sees who ordered. He says the customer's name, Bubble Bass. This reaction suggests SpongeBob knows Bubble Bass by reputation. Bubble Bass pushes Squidward aside and addresses SpongeBob directly as SquarePants. The two clearly know each other or know of each other. Bubble Bass says he hears talk that SpongeBob makes a mean Krabby Patty. SpongeBob responds that he hears talk that Bubble Bass is kind of picky. Both confirm these reputations are accurate. SpongeBob presents the burger confidently. Bubble Bass takes the plate and sits down to examine the Krabby Patty carefully. He takes his time inspecting it from multiple angles before finally taking a bite. SpongeBob asks what Bubble Bass thinks. Bubble Bass says the burger is pretty good, but then delivers the devastating critique. SpongeBob forgot the pickles. He holds up the burger to show there are no pickles visible. The crowd of customers gasps. SpongeBob yells no in disbelief. Bubble Bass says SpongeBob is supposed to be the best there is, but he doesn't think so. He declares that SpongeBob loses and laughs. This moment shatters SpongeBob's confidence completely. SpongeBob insists the pickles should be right where they always are, and he knows he put them on. The other customers look disappointed. SpongeBob tears the Krabby Patty apart, desperately searching for the missing pickles. He keeps repeating the word pickles over and over while destroying the burger, looking for evidence he didn't make a mistake. Bubble Bass walks up to Mr. Krabs and throws Squidward out of the way. He tells Mr. Krabs that he believes Mr. Krabs owes him $2. Mr. Krabs asks why he owes $2 in a pained voice. Bubble Bass points to the menu where tiny print says money back guarantee. Mr. Krabs recognizes this policy reluctantly and asks if they can talk about it. He takes out $2, but Bubble Bass grabs them. Mr. Krabs pulls the money back and offers a discount on restroom tokens instead. Bubble Bass takes the money again and says he's afraid not. Mr. Krabs desperately offers a free glass of water, then a dozen free glasses of water with ice. Bubble Bass walks out with the $2. Mr. Krabs chases after him, sobbing and yelling about his $2. He walks back to SpongeBob crying about the lost money. SpongeBob insists he knows he put pickles on that Krabby Patty. Mr. Krabs grabs SpongeBob and says the $2 is coming out of his paycheck. SpongeBob tries to hang onto the floor as Mr. Krabs drags him. SpongeBob begs for Mr. Krabs to wait. Mr. Krabs throws SpongeBob into the kitchen and tells him to get back to work because they have orders waiting. Squidward tells SpongeBob he needs a Krabby Patty. SpongeBob pants and declares he is not going to blow it this time. He starts making a burger saying bun down, then ketchup, then mustard, then hesitates asking if pickles come next. He says that's not right and starts over. He puts bun down, mustard, then ketchup, lettuce, then again hesitates over pickles and says no. He tries again putting mustard down, bun, and asks where the patty goes. He tries yet again asking about pickles and ketchup while admitting he's losing it. SpongeBob attempts one more time saying bun down, shoe, mustard, pan, bun before stopping himself. The fact that he included shoe and pan shows how confused he's become. Mr. Krabs enters the kitchen. SpongeBob tells Mr. Krabs he's so confused and can't remember how to do anything. Mr. Krabs suggests SpongeBob take the rest of the day off. SpongeBob protests, asking who will make the Krabby Patties. Mr. Krabs says not to worry because they have Squidward. Squidward reacts with confusion to suddenly being assigned cooking duty. SpongeBob walks toward the exit, agreeing that Mr. Krabs is right and he needs to get his head straight. He tries to remember if it's bun, patty, ketchup, then looks up and notices the door isn't there. SpongeBob panics, saying the front door is missing. Mr. Krabs opens the door, which is just a couple feet away from where SpongeBob is looking. SpongeBob apologizes and says this pickle thing has his head all messed up. He says he better get home and rest his brain. SpongeBob starts to leave but immediately walks back in, asking which way he lives. Mr. Krabs points him in the correct direction. SpongeBob says, of course, laughs nervously, and closes the door. This scene demonstrates how completely the pickle incident destroyed SpongeBob's ability to function. He can't even remember where his own house is, or locate a door that's directly in front of him. His entire sense of reality has collapsed because he can't make a Krabby Patty correctly. The scene transitions to SpongeBob's house where he sits trying to write down the Krabby Patty formula. He keeps trying different combinations, asking if it's bun, patty, bun, or tomato, pickle, bun. He keeps saying no and trying different arrangements. He throws away the paper and pencil in frustration, declaring he's so confused. SpongeBob decides maybe a good night's sleep will help him get his head on straight. The scene transitions to SpongeBob's bedroom that night. SpongeBob stands next to his bed, trying to remember the correct order for getting into bed. He wonders if it's mattress, sheets, pillow, then SpongeBob. He hits his head with his fist, trying to think. He says he remembers it was mattress, SpongeBob, mattress, then sheets, pillow. He gets in between the two mattresses and says goodnight to Gary. Gary meows. SpongeBob immediately says this isn't right and tries a different position. SpongeBob tries sleeping upside down on his bed and says goodnight to Gary again. Gary meows. SpongeBob says this isn't right either. He tries lying on his back, then between the railings of his ladder, then with a mattress on his head, then on the ground next to his mattresses, then in a life preserver. He keeps saying wrong, negative, and even says the Russian word for no. The clock fast forwards through the night, showing SpongeBob trying countless sleeping positions. Morning comes and the rooster crows as SpongeBob's alarm goes off. SpongeBob is found on the floor under his bed. He says he almost had it. He looks at his alarm clock and asks how to turn it off, telling himself to think. Gary meows. SpongeBob picks up Gary and shoves him into the foghorn alarm to try to stop the noise. This doesn't work, and the alarm keeps going with Gary stuck inside, making squeaking dolphin noises. This extended sequence brilliantly shows how SpongeBob's inability to make Krabby Patties has destroyed his ability to perform any task correctly. If he can't make burgers, he can't sleep, can't turn off alarms, and can't function in any capacity. The scene transitions back to the Krusty Krab where black smoke pours from the kitchen. Squidward wears a cooking apron and coughs loudly. He clears the smoke with a fire extinguisher and announces the patties are done. Mr. Krabs sees black burnt patties on plates and gets irritated. Customers begin complaining. One says Squidward burnt his Krabby Patty. Another says he burnt her fries. A third customer briefly drinks his shake and says Squidward burnt his shake, which is impossible but emphasizes how terrible Squidward's cooking is. All the customers start yelling and complaining simultaneously. Mr. Krabs tries to get them to come back while sobbing. He realizes he needs to get SpongeBob back. The scene transitions to SpongeBob's house. A toaster hangs on the front door for some reason. Mr. Krabs opens the door and calls for SpongeBob. Music plays in reverse, as the camera shows SpongeBob's house is a complete disaster, with everything misplaced, opposite, and chaotic. Mr. Krabs calls for SpongeBob again. SpongeBob walks into view backwards, wearing underwear over his head also backwards. He greets Mr. Krabs but speaks in mixed-up word order, saying, "Mr. Krabs, hello, do you how do?" The parenthetical translation shows he meant to say, "Hello, Mr. Krabs, how do you do?" Mr. Krabs asks why SpongeBob is talking funny and takes the underwear off his head. SpongeBob responds in scrambled words that he can't do anything right since because pickles. Mr. Krabs insists this is nonsense, and SpongeBob will be back making Krabby Patties like his old self in no time. SpongeBob says in mixed-up words that he doesn't think he's ready to go back to work. He walks away. Mr. Krabs insists SpongeBob is fine. SpongeBob walks directly through the wooden kitchen door without opening it, leaving a SpongeBob-shaped hole. Mr. Krabs admits maybe SpongeBob isn't fine. He walks into the kitchen where SpongeBob is nailing a piece of bread to the table for no apparent reason. Mr. Krabs says all they need to do is get SpongeBob's confidence back so he can make more money. Mr. Krabs catches himself and corrects it to say so SpongeBob can make patties, though his real motivation is obviously financial. SpongeBob asks in scrambled words, how to do that? Mr. Krabs says it's like riding a bike and you never forget. He notices a bike boiling in a pot of water on the stove, which suggests SpongeBob tried to cook the bike. Mr. Krabs says he's going to help SpongeBob. The scene transitions to SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs sitting on the floor in SpongeBob's living room. Mr. Krabs explains that if SpongeBob learns to make a Krabby Patty again, his life will be back in order. He takes out a blanket with all the Krabby Patty ingredients laid out on it. SpongeBob starts to protest, but Mr. Krabs tells him to take his time. SpongeBob stares at the ingredients thinking. Time passes and it turns to night, then day again. SpongeBob reaches for a bun and Mr. Krabs gets excited. SpongeBob puts the bun back down and says no repeatedly. Day becomes night again, then day, then night again. Mr. Krabs falls asleep waiting. Day comes again, and SpongeBob wakes Mr. Krabs up excitedly. SpongeBob says he's got it and everything is very clear now. Mr. Krabs asks hopefully if this is true. SpongeBob says yes. He finally realizes that he can't do it. He yells that he's a failure. Mr. Krabs tells him not to talk like that. SpongeBob asks if Mr. Krabs doesn't get it, calling him a crustaceous cheapskate. SpongeBob yells that he can't make a double Krabby Patty with the works. As he rants about his inability, he actually starts making the burger while listing the ingredients. He says he can't put a patty on a bun with lettuce, cheese, onions, tomatoes, ketchup, mustard, pickles, and top bun together in that order. As he yells about what he can't do, he does exactly that, creating a perfect Krabby Patty. SpongeBob realizes what just happened. Mr. Krabs smirks and narrows his eyes with determination, saying it's time. This scene provides the emotional climax of the episode. SpongeBob regains his ability by accident while insisting he can't do it. The technique of making him list the ingredients while angry bypasses his mental block. Mr. Krabs' therapeutic approach worked, though probably more by accident than by design. The scene shows that SpongeBob's problem was entirely psychological rather than a loss of actual skill. The scene cuts to the Krusty Krab interior with black smoke still spreading from the kitchen. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob walk in. SpongeBob rescues a burnt Squidward from the kitchen and sprays him with a fire extinguisher. A customer announces that SpongeBob is back. Other customers cheer about the old chef returning. Bubble Bass enters the restaurant, shoving the crowd out of his way. He says he hears SquarePants is back. SpongeBob opens the kitchen door and confirms he's right here. Bubble Bass says he thought he ran SpongeBob out of town. SpongeBob responds that this is where he belongs. He holds up some bubbles and blows one. Bubble Bass gives a weird roar. SpongeBob responds with a smaller roar. The crowd gasps. SpongeBob and Bubble Bass glare at each other while Mr. Krabs sweats nervously. Bubble Bass orders the regular and adds that this time, SpongeBob better not forget the pickles. SpongeBob rushes into the kitchen and returns with a Krabby Patty in the blink of an eye, announcing he didn't forget them. Mr. Krabs sweats violently as Bubble Bass examines and eats the patty. The camera cuts to the crowd, then Squidward, then SpongeBob, who smiles confidently. Bubble Bass stops eating and delivers his verdict. Still no pickles. SpongeBob looks shocked. Bubble Bass asks if SpongeBob sees and sticks out his tongue covered with chewed food. Everyone looks disgusted while SpongeBob appears upset. Bubble Bass declares that SpongeBob failed again, calling him SpongeBob Loser Pants. Bubble Bass laughs hysterically. The camera zooms into his mouth, showing his tongue tucked behind his teeth. SpongeBob stares at this for a moment and realizes something. SpongeBob suddenly says to wait a minute. He grabs Bubble Bass's tongue and pulls it out, telling everyone to look. He reveals 4 pickles hidden under Bubble Bass's tongue. Mr. Krabs adds that there are the pickles from last time too. Another customer says there are her car keys. Everyone walks up to Bubble Bass, glaring at him angrily. Bubble Bass says there's his ride and rushes out of the Krusty Krab huffing and panting. This revelation proves SpongeBob never made a mistake. Bubble Bass was a con artist who hid pickles under his tongue to scam restaurants out of money through their money-back guarantee policies. The fact that someone's car keys were also under his tongue suggests he's been doing this scam for a long time and hiding other items too. Justice is served as Bubble Bass is exposed as a fraud. Mr. Krabs calls for 3 cheers for the return of their master fry cook, SpongeBob. He says hip hip and everyone responds with hooray. Squidward gives a very unenthusiastic hooray. Mr. Krabs says hip hip again and everyone cheers, while Squidward says whoop-de-doo sarcastically. Mr. Krabs gives the 3rd hip hip and everyone cheers while Squidward says oh boy with complete boredom. SpongeBob then says they should give 3 cheers for the fry cook who took his place when he was gone, Squidward. Squidward smiles, touched by this recognition. SpongeBob says hip hip, but the crowd responds with boo instead of hooray. Squidward's face shows shock and his smile turns into a frown. SpongeBob says hip hip again and everyone boos louder. Squidward's frown becomes droopier. The scene cuts to an outside shot of the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob says hip hip a 3rd time and everyone boos. SpongeBob says hip hip one more time and a customer yells that Squidward stinks. The episode ends on this note. Pickles works brilliantly as an episode because it explores SpongeBob's core identity. SpongeBob defines himself through his job at the Krusty Krab. His ability to make perfect Krabby Patties is his greatest skill and source of pride. When that ability gets called into question, SpongeBob's entire sense of self collapses. He can't sleep, can't speak properly, can't find doors, and can't perform any basic task. The episode shows that SpongeBob's confidence and competence are entirely interconnected. The episode also introduces Bubble Bass, who became an iconic antagonist despite only appearing in this one Season 1 episode. Bubble Bass represents the worst type of customer, the professional complainer who exploits policies to scam businesses. His design as an overweight, glasses-wearing nerd plays into certain stereotypes but makes him immediately recognizable. The revelation that he was hiding pickles under his tongue all along provides perfect narrative satisfaction. The ending where everyone boos Squidward after SpongeBob tries to honor him perfectly captures Squidward's role in the show. Even when Squidward steps up and works hard covering for SpongeBob, nobody appreciates him. The customers only care about getting their food correctly, not about Squidward's effort. This moment of cruelty towards Squidward adds bittersweet humor to what would otherwise be a purely happy ending. Pickles aired on the 21st of August 1999 during Season 1's run and became one of the season's most memorable episodes. The episode demonstrated SpongeBob's range by showing him at his best, at his worst, and fighting back to reclaim his identity. Fans remember Bubble Bass hiding pickles under his tongue as one of Season 1's most satisfying villain defeats. 25 years later, Pickles remains a quintessential SpongeBob episode that perfectly captures what makes SpongeBob SquarePants both funny and emotionally resonant. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.